Hi everybody and welcome to the KTPF Community Show, live in the hub at www.ktpf.co.uk, the online paranormal talk show brought to you in association with the UK Shadow Seekers and the Keeping the Paranormal Friendly community. Hi, my name is Suzanne.
And I'm late, but I'm Steve.
Established since 2007, the KTPF is a dedicated, ongoing community which is not just there for when you're experiencing animosity from others. We welcome every paranormal investigator and enthusiast alike, including hobbyists, scientists and psychic mediums from around the globe, to join in as we cover this vast, fascinating subject, encouraging you to share information, advice and most importantly, friendship. Remember, collaboration, not competition.
Talk Radio.
Yeah, welcome to the show everyone. I hope you can hear us okay out there in internet cyberspace land. I hope everybody's there okay. Can you make sure you can hear us alright? Well, anyway, we've been a bit busy this week, haven't we, and a bit hectic. We've been trying to get everything sorted out for the show. Well, Denise is there. I was trying to ring her just now, and Andy, because we'll be talking to them later, hopefully.
Well, hello there, Mr. Neil Munnelly.
Mr. Neil Munnelly?
He's coming on there, look.
Is he? All right. Whispering Neil is texting tonight.
He is.
Well, just to let you know what's been going on this week, I've managed to fill up the rest of the dates for the year for the KTPF show.
I like sitting there. I'm hiding behind the banner. You can't see me.
Hang on, let me move that banner.
No, you can't take it off.
Oh, yes, I can. I've got the controls. Right. Let me know when. Right, I will do.
You're going to break that camera, you know that. Keep doing
I'm
that.
just saying, been out for dinner. Well, Andy, we'll probably speak to you after we've spoken to Amy Vickers, so it'll give you a chance to settle down, all right, my love? But hopefully people are going to come in tonight and talk to the lady. She is an American, but she's in Dublin at the moment.
She is, and she's not a hologram, so you can talk to her.
Yes, you can. So
as long as it's not past 9, says Denise.
Oh my God, no, it won't be past 9 for you, Denise, don't worry, we're going to go into it in a little bit. Alright, I'm just going to do this bit here. So I just want to say hello to those that are in the hub. We have John Savage over there in Minnesota.
Yes.
Who I've been talking to during the day.
Welcome, Mr. John.
Okay, let's see who else. We've got our Nigel in. Nigel 333. Andy 707s. Remember that we started at 8, even though we were slightly late ourselves.
Yes. And we got Simply Joe, who's now addicted. We
got Spooky Old House. What Spooky Old House? Either somebody's coming new, or
I missed that one. What was that Spooky Old House?
Or it's somebody's changed their name. Right. So oh, good. I'm glad you're home early, Andy. Who else have we got? Yes, Spooky Old House, whoever they are. So please introduce. My own radio show. Cool. Pardon.
Are we on different things here?
I don't know what's going on here.
I'm not seeing Spooky Old House. Let's have a look up.
You'll have to go back up, darling.
Let's go up.
We've also got Helen in. That's Nigel's other half. So yes, there are a few. We can hear you arguing.
Good.
Well, that's because it's real. Isn't it, Steve?
I like having a good argument.
Yeah, because this is
Talk Radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Right, okay, so who's your friend in the middle? Oh, this is our... I thought you were seeing ghosts then. This is our brother-in-law.
This is Mr. Neil Munnelly.
No, it's not. Right, so just a few things to go on with before we start. To let us know if you feel as though you want to talk to somebody or speak to somebody or listen to somebody that might be interesting in the realm of paranormal, supernatural, cryptozoology, UFOs, anything. Give us some suggestions, yeah?
And we'll try and get
them for you, okay? Because this is your show, and we are doing this not only for ourselves but for you as well. You know where it is, all right? And
hi, Debs. And can you tell Lee that light is still better?
Light is still better. Okay, fair enough. Right, okay, well...
that's right, you know what I mean.
I'm going to play a little snip for you now, because we went to Scream Kingdom, didn't we, last week? And Denise's was the one that actually
She took a
came
picture.
with us.
Yes, she was, and she took a picture of you and Mr. Jason Cull.
Yes, she did.
While you were doing an interview.
I did a quick interview with him, so I'm going to play that for you in a moment. John came with us, so we'll just talk briefly about that after.
There's a microphone over there, Deborah.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave you with this.
If you'd like to pick it up.
If you'd like to have a look and see what's been said and what hasn't been said. So here we go. I'll see you after the break.
We are here with Jason Cull, and where are we?
We're at Scare Kingdom Scream Park.
There you go. And how's it been for 2012?
It's been really good. 2012 is our fourth year for Scare Kingdom, and we decided to take the Mayan Prophecy End of the World as a theme. So we made a big decision earlier this year because of the wet weather and because last year we had problems with mud in the cornfield attraction not to have a cornfield this year. So instead we've got a 3-acre attraction called Apocalypse 2012, which goes in with the End of the World theme, which is both in and outdoors. And people are loving it. And we've got all new attractions, which we have every year. No queuing, which is always good for an attraction. So we are the only screen park in Britain where you don't queue. You buy a timed entry ticket. And we've got 4 attractions, one based in a Parisian haunted theatre, one based in an American caravan trailer trash site with a pig head character and all sorts of horrible, gruesome mutants. And then we have Gauntlet Hill Asylum, which is the continuation of our bloodbath story.
Sounds interesting. We've just been round and it has been quite good. I missed out the bits that I can't do, as you know, because of the claustrophobia and bending down if there is anything. But yeah.
Actually, there's no bending down this year at all, because we'd had people like yourself.
Yes.
A couple of people had said, you know, I wasn't able to experience this part of the attraction. So we made the decision this year not to have any tunnels, so there are no bending down areas in any attraction this year.
So I missed out.
You missed out. You can go back and go in.
So you've also started another one this year, didn't you? This camp thing.
We started several new things this year. Horror Camp Live was the world's first horror camping experience, which was a huge success for us and sold out every date this year. We're doing that again from March. We also have another screen park in Yorkshire, and we also had another attraction called Carnival of Horrors, which was a circus carnival-themed horror show a little bit earlier this year. And we're just about to go to Europe to build a new scare attraction in a European country.
Wow. Any clues to whereabouts?
Well, this year, earlier in the year and the end of last year, we built an attraction in Greece, in Athens, Greece's first scare attraction, which is in a theme park, and it's doing really, really well. And I can't tell you the country, but it's in Europe, and that will be released in December.
Ooh, sounds good. And you're definitely doing the camp next year, and can you just briefly tell us what the camp's all about?
Horror Camp Live is a 13-hour intense immersive horror experience where you are thrown into fear and fun for 13 hours. It includes accommodation in a tent, live scare actors, special effects, dare-based games, challenges and prizes, and the idea is to survive the whole night. It's very scary and it's relentless.
And where can we find out more about this camp?
You can find out about Horror Camp Live at horrorcamplive.co.uk and Scare Kingdom at scarekingdom.com.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. Thank you for inviting us again.
I'm going to say, though, did you not go to a bloodbath? Is that the one you didn't go in?
No, I did.
Okay, you have to go back and go in it because you don't have the bend down at all. So my challenge to you is go and experience it.
Bloodbath? What was Bloodbath?
Well, it's called Gauntlet Hill Asylum, but it's the continuation of our bloodbath story. It's the last attraction, this one here.
Right.
If you haven't been in it, you need to go in it. Yeah. There's no bending down.
No
and
bending
there's no
down.
claustrophobia.
Right, okay. Steve, will you come in with me? You want me to do that as a dare?
You have to do it as a dare and tell your listeners what it's like.
Right, okie dokie, I will do that. Denise just taking a picture. And you're coming on the show in January sometime?
I will be, yes. We'll sort that date out a bit later, but I shall definitely be there.
Right, and what's your take on the paranormal now? Are you still involved in this?
I'm not really involved in the paranormal at all. I think the paranormal industry is very much dead now, really. I'm very little to do with it. I still occasionally make appearances for ghost hunt events when people book me. Still writing books, written 12 books now on paranormal, witchcraft and history, and I'm about to embark on a new television show about the paranormal, but with a massive twist. For a mainstream, well, I can't tell you much more about it.
Keep us informed?
Yes, and I was also doing Great British Ghosts this year with Michaela Strachan.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I will try and take up your challenge.
No, you will take up my challenge.
Only if you come with me.
I will come with you.
Okay, when you finish.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Jason's going to come with me. We're going now. Right, okay. So we'll see you in a bit. Right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I have just taken up Jason Cull's challenge and went through the Gauntlet Hill Asylum. Yes, it's not claustrophobic, but wow, what an attraction. Oh my God. And put it bluntly, I got my boob touched. Got it grabbed at the end, nearly. God, yeah. But, oh, I did, full on. But, yes, it was really good and, you know, fantastic. I'm going to see whether Mrs. Dawson's available. Just quickly, Mrs. Dawson, another good year for you, I'm hoping for?
I hope so. I really hope so. It's very different from last year. Unfortunately, there's no cornfield due to the weather. But I think this year what we've done is we've adapted, overcome, as always.
Yeah.
And we've it's very different, but still very exciting.
Okay,
very exciting.
Thanks very much, and hope to see you again next year.
Hopefully so, God willing.
Okay, have a good year.
And you.
Right, what did you think of Scream Kingdom?
It was great, yeah. I really enjoyed it. The last one we came through, it was very good, yeah.
I believe you got your legs back.
I did, yeah. Somebody grabbed my legs, which made me scream. Grab Steve.
Would you come again?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, well, that was our interview with Jason Carl at Scream Kingdom, and whenever you're ready, Denise. So I'll just put the ticker on so you
yes,
can...
Denise can ring up now.
Yeah, 0844 414 3982. You can ring on. That should be showing there. Is it going across the screen or not?
No.
And there she is. Good evening, young lady. Hello. Yeah, we got Denise on the line. Denise came with us. She was our
winner.
Our winner last week.
Yes, she was very quick to get in there.
Yes, she was. Straight after the investigation that we did, wasn't it? So,
yes, we announced that we had a free ticket for somebody, and all we had to do was email us.
And she was the first one to come in.
I think she actually emailed before she went to bed. It was that quick.
Yeah, so, we went to Scare Kingdom, and what did you think to it, Denise?
Oh, it was great night. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. That was what we liked to hear. Was there anything you liked?
The asylum.
The asylum?
Yeah.
Was that the bit that I went in afterwards?
Yeah, the last one.
What did you think to it?
Oh, it was great.
Was it? You got grabbed, apparently.
Yeah. I did, yes.
So
grabbing my legs.
Yes, she made a mistake of saying, "Oh, not my legs, not my legs."
I did be nasty.
You did, and after we went round this bit, this nurse came flying through a hole in the wall and tried to grab my legs again.
And what did you think to it, John?
I enjoyed it.
Did you? Have you turned it on? I think
Hello.
you have.
Hello.
So you've enjoyed it as well, have you?
Yeah. Like Denise, I liked the last one that we went through, especially when we went through again.
Yeah.
Seemed to be more.
There was more in the last one, but the theatre was good as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with it is it kind of tries to build you up, but with the long walk round the first bit, which kind of tries to heighten your expectations. But of course the other bits are outside, so they're relying a lot on the weather.
On the weather.
I mean, like you said, when we went last year, Mr. Neil was with us, and our cat actually ended up in a puddle of mud.
Yes, because she was trying to run. But we had all the big corn up, you see, so it was quite good. But Jason, Carl, because I've never been in the last two before because of the claustrophobic and stuff like that, like you said on the interview, they've changed it all now for people like us.
Yes, because there used to be tunnels. You used to have to get down on your haunches and go through this little tunnel with hands coming down and getting you.
And I was challenged to go through again, and I must admit, I'm glad I did. And John was saying that when we went through the second time, you even though you were expecting it, you got more. You could understand more of the activity.
You could, because when you're first going through, you're more, what's coming next?
Yeah.
And you're not actually taking a lot of notice of the actual things. Yeah. Of all the work that goes into it, all the special effects, all the makeup and everything these people go through.
Yeah.
I mean, they must have been boiling in all that gear they were wearing.
Definitely.
I mean, for me, it was good going back, because the first time I was at the front.
Yeah.
And everything was happening behind me.
Well, I was behind Jason Carl. And he was taking very small steps.
Yeah.
What did you say, John?
Second time round, we lost Denise and Steve.
Right.
Well, I was at the back, and it suddenly went dark. I nearly walked straight into it. and then that nurse tried to grab her legs.
And then I got my boob felt. Oh my God! Somebody grabbed out to me and grabbed my boob.
Mind you, one reason why we got stuck, and Denise will tell you, this hand came out the wall and just grabbed her arm.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about that, Denise?
Yeah. Dragged me in.
Dragged you in. So would you go again then, Denise?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What would be your summing up of the place?
I enjoyed it. I don't think it was long enough.
No.
It were over too quick.
Right.
That's the only problem.
Yeah. The only thing I'm not sure about is whether that's just a preview, being a preview night for the press and everything, whether it's more intense on the actual main nights.
And what you don't realise going on the preview night, I mean, obviously they're going to get better at what they're doing as it goes along, but there's also a thing during the day for the kids.
Well, yes,
where it's toned down and there's other bits around the park.
Yeah.
For the kids to enjoy.
Well, this is it. So, but thanks for that anyway, Denise.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and you enjoyed the Museum of Transport last week as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah, that was good, yeah.
Right, okay then. So hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yep.
Okay.
Soon.
Take care then, and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, thank you, and thanks so much for last week.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was Denise, and
and Joe, it's not just dressed up men groping women. There's men being groped as well.
Yes, because you got groped last year, didn't you?
They groped
a bit too low.
Yeah, last year this hand comes through and caught my nuts.
And we're not talking about cashews.
No, I wasn't eating nuts.
But anyway, that was Jason, she said. But anyway,
well, you never know.
You know, he's going to come on the show next year in January. He's going to sort out to come on and speak to us on the show about what he's doing. And as he said, he's got some great plans coming up. He's already got a screen park in Greece, and he's opening up another one in Europe somewhere, which he won't let on. He's got 3 or 4 going on in the UK as we speak. Yeah, I mean... and then he's got his horror camp.
Well, not last year, the year, but year before, he actually had... a
preview night.
Yeah, but he had 3 opening up on the same night.
Yeah, so he was shooting off.
So he was shooting between them all night through.
And he's also got this horror camp that he does now, where you actually spend 13 hours and you're lucky if you sleep. So, you know, but you can check it out. All the... web pages are on our KTPF page, so you can see all that if you're interested in doing something like that.
Now so, I'm lost.
Balls,
banquets and balls.
Okay.
Completely lost with that one.
Was that. And as I say, you enjoyed it, didn't you, John?
Yeah, because I pointed out to you I pointed out to you when we went through on the second time. I said, did you feel anyone touching your head? Because there was actually people laying above the corridor.
Yeah.
And you could actually see like through the walls and that.
Yeah, she actually ducked.
Yeah.
I did duck. I didn't notice I ducked.
There was a lot of good giggling going on.
Yeah, anyway. But no, it was really good.
I mean, we walk around the corner and there's this bloke sits up moaning, which was quite funny the second time because Jason went close to him and said, a bit louder next time.
Yeah.
But he's there and he starts peeling off his face.
But what was the highlight of the night when we left? We had a ride home in a recovery lorry.
We did.
Because the car
we did.
The
car got scared and had a puncture.
Mm.
So we were sitting around for about an hour waiting for the truck to turn up and
we got a lift home on a recovery truck.
It was a great view from up there in the truck.
It was actually, yeah. So, but that was not exactly the highlight of the night, but it rounded the night off quite well for strange and mysterious things to happen. I don't know, but yeah.
At least you weren't in a dark country lane.
No, that's true.
Around you.
Yeah, no fog.
Now that would have been spooky.
So, but I don't know.
How are we doing for time?
Well, we're going to be calling up our guest. She's sitting there waiting for us.
Yeah.
So I hope you're ready for this. Denise says she would have stopped if I'd seen you.
Yeah, I think she went the other way.
I think she did and all. Well, thanks very much, John. Okay. And
thank you for Denise as well.
Yeah, thank you for Denise. And
now, are we going to talk to Miss Amy Vickers?
Yes, and we're going to give her a call.
No.
So are you ready for this? We're talking about the Starchild Project.
This is not something I would normally have looked into. But I did a bit because obviously the lady's coming on. And I would like to ask at least one question. Otherwise I look stupid.
Yeah. We want you to ask questions as well.
It's a very interesting thing they've got.
You know, and
apparently they need about another 7 million.
Do they?
To actually finish it properly.
Right, well, we're going to find out a bit more. And as I say, the Starchild Project is... as I said before, we don't just cover the paranormal, and I know most of you in there are ghost hunters, for want of a better word, even though I'm not keen on that word. Paranormal investigators.
I'm a ghosty.
Right. We do cover other things, so we do want you to get involved, and even though it all comes really back to the paranormal in some way, shape, or form,
everything is paranormal that isn't known.
This is it, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm actually loving all these other things coming in, because I'm learning stuff about that I didn't know.
Yeah, well, this is
I mean, the one we did with Roy on his show when the guy rang up about the voodoo, the voodoo stuff in Tahiti. I was gobsmacked. I couldn't answer. There was 4 of us sitting there, me, you, Rob and Jebby, and not one of us wanted to interrupt him and ask a question.
No, it was just...
It was fascinating.
About all the voodoo and everything, So, but it was fascinating.
And the zombie powder.
And the zombie powder and everything. Right, well, should be going across the screen is our telephone number, because we are going to Skype the lady. Yes. So, if you want to give us a call and ask any questions, if you'd like to give us about 15-20 minutes to get into the conversation, then we'll mention about giving us a call if you want to give her, ring up and ask her any questions, okay? But you can also use the chat room, but we would like to hear from you.
Yeah. And it's becoming doubtful that it's totally human, Andy. They've actually got mitochondrial DNA from it. And apparently there's 56 differences to what human DNA should be.
Well, we're going to find out a bit more. Some say it's a hoax, some say it isn't, some say it's human, some say it isn't. So we're going to find out from the lady ourselves. So here we go. We're going to give her a call. Just click the button. She says.
Someone said we're all Starchild, and Jonathan, no, I'm just a child.
So everything works well.
No chicken tonight.
Hello, this is Amy.
Hi Amy, how are you?
Brilliant, I'm glad to hear from you.
Okay, just want to make sure everyone can hear you in the chat room. Can you just let us know that you can hear Amy okay, guys?
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, they're all coming back with a yes.
Fantastic.
Right, well, Amy Vickers, where do you hail from originally?
Australia originally. I actually was studying archaeology and a number of other things in university when Lloyd Pye came to my my university and gave a lecture on the Starchild Skull, and I pretty much dropped everything and moved to America in 2004, and I've been involved with the project ever since.
Right, and you're like second in command to Lloyd, yes?
Yes, I am. I'm the second most senior member. He's been involved with the project since 1999, so that's an incredibly long time and a huge amount of dedication on his part.
Right. Well, before we go into the actual project details of itself, can you tell us what you used to do beforehand?
Oh, bits of everything, actually. It's amazing. I've just been really lucky in that my background has helped in so many ways with the Starchild Skull. I was studying law, minoring in archaeology, a bit of an odd combination, and working my way through school as a dental assistant. So my background in both dental studies, law, and archaeology have been very helpful moving forward with the skull.
Right. And as I say, now you're on with the skull. So what, for those of you that don't know, what is the Starchild Skull Project?
The Starchild Skull Project is a research organisation, basically. We're just a group of people who are trying to find out what this very unusual skull called the Starchild Skull is. Now, we aren't ourselves scientists. We just coordinate teams of people who are scientists who do all of the actual research and work on the skull. So we're just a group of people, really, who have had this amazing history-changing thing land in our laps. And really it all started with Lloyd Pye when...
Sorry.
Bless you. Bless you. It all started with Lloyd Pye going out into the world and trying to find different scientists and doctors that would be prepared to look at this really unusual skull. Now, the skull, for anyone who's interested, you can see pictures of it at www.starchildproject.com. It looks very unusually physically, but as we've done more research on it, we've found that everything from its DNA up is very, very unusual, to the point that many people, and I'm not just talking about lay people like myself, but credentialed scientists are now speculating that it is almost certainly a new species of human, and possibly even a completely alien species. So it's something that we're all very excited about.
So it was found back, when was it found again, sorry? And who found it?
It was found in Mexico in the 1930s by an American tourist.
Yeah.
Who, she was a young girl at the time, a young teenager, whose parents were of Mexican heritage, and they'd taken her back to the village where they were born to show her her heritage. And she had been told that there were mine tunnels in the area that were very dangerous and strictly forbidden. And so, of course, the first chance she got, she ran off to explore the mine tunnels. And while she was in there, she found two skeletons, two complete skeletons. One of them was a normal human, she didn't know at the time, but a normal human female skeleton. The other she described as misshapen. She said it was smaller than the other one, which we take to mean it was about 4 foot tall, and that it was misshapen all the way through the bones. Now, she was only able to recover the two skulls. The other bones, she said, were lost in a flash flood. Unfortunately, she's since passed away, so we're unable to get any more details from her. But these two skulls that she kept her entire life as souvenirs passed from one person to another until it eventually landed with its current owners, Ray and Melanie Young of El Paso, Texas. Melanie was a neonatal nurse, so she had some expertise in skulls and was able to look at it and realize very quickly that it was not like any sort of deformity that she'd seen before, and certainly not like a normal human skull. And by this time it was 1999, and Melanie started looking for people that would be willing to do some research on the skull and try and find out what it really was. And through that quest, she found Lloyd Pye, and that's really how everything kicked off. So it was found in 1930 in Mexico, but the skull itself is actually 900 years old. So we're talking about something within the era of modern humans. We're not talking that it was living with cave people or anything. Definitely modern humans, but really quite an old skull.
Right. So we've seen on the internet, some people think it's a hoax, some people think it's human, some people, are basically not believing so much in it. Nigel 333 is asking, could it be pre-human before humans started to evolve to what we are now? There are tales of the first peoples on Earth before us. And you have that theory. Yeah,
that's what I said to you earlier. Yeah. I kind of think that they were the first inhabitants, so we say, of Earth. And something big happened, and obviously we had to start again.
So what would you say to these skeptics or about whether it's this, that and the other?
Well, first of all, to answer your listener's question, the last of the pre-humans that we know about went extinct about 16,000 years ago. So that's 16,000 years ago versus 900 years ago. So if it is some kind of pre-human, we would have to completely rewrite everything that we think is our family tree. We've speculated that it's possibly more like a parallel family tree. There's so many things right now that we lump together into this big group of life on Earth and try and say that everything is interconnected and it goes back to just one original ancestor and everything grew and evolved from that. Well, what if we're wrong about that? What if there were multiple original organisms, and what if we're one branch of that, and what if this is another branch? So there's a lot of speculation that can be done, but for the moment all we know for certain from its DNA is that it does have some human DNA in it. So it's not impossible that it's related to us, but it is so different from us. If you or I or any other person was born with some of the DNA that this skull has, it would just kill us instantly. The DNA is so different, it's not something that our bodies could sustain.
Yeah.
And to answer your second question about people who suggest it may be a hoax or may just be a normal human, that would have been fantastic. That would have saved us all a lot of work if it was just a normal human. And in fact, that all of us went into the project in the beginning thinking that that's what it was, that it had to be some sort of deformity or some new kind of illness or something else unusual, but with an explanation that fits within what we currently know about humans. But over the years, and again, this is since 1999, we've gone through research teams in 4 different countries. I mean, this is not something where it's just me and 2 other people sitting around Googling on the internet. We've had internationally recognized teams of scientists look at this skull. And I think one of the definitive works on it was done by Dr. Ted Robinson in 2003 and 2004, where he and 11 of his colleagues just went through the scientific literature and spoke to experts on different deformities and tried to find anything that would explain this skull, tried to find a way to say this is a human skull that has such and such condition. And Dr. Robinson, again, a very well-recognized craniofacial expert and surgeon, and 11 of his esteemed colleagues were unable to find anything anywhere that looks like this skull looks, that has the characteristics that this has. If this was a human, somewhere over the course of the years that we've been studying it, we would have found that out. Now, we have shot ourselves in the foot a little bit in that the way that a normal scientific exploration of something goes is you do all of your research, you get all of your results, you do all your research again and make sure you get the same result 2 or 3 times just to be double, extra, triple sure, and then you publish your paper, and you don't just get to publish it, it goes through several stages of peer review and lots of chatting back and forth and really smart people adding lots of jargon and other things into it, and then maybe several years after you've done your research, the rest of the world gets to know about it.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't wanted to do that. We haven't wanted to try and keep this a secret. From quite early on in the project, when we just ran into one expert after another saying, I've never seen anything like this before, I don't know what it is, it has to be some kind of human, because what else could it be? But I'm telling you, I've never seen a human like this. We realized this is something really unique and really special, and we need to let the world know about this as soon as possible. And so at each step of the way, every time we've gotten a new piece of information and a new bit of research has come out, we've immediately made that available to the public instead of going through this big, long, aggravating process where at the end of it you get something that a normal person couldn't understand anyway because it's so full of so much scientific jargon and so many confusing terms that it doesn't make sense to a normal person. So by doing that, it has given our critics a nice big fat box to stand on and yell out about how if this was a real thing, we'd be doing research the old-fashioned way, and maybe they have a point to be made, but our only sin really is that we haven't gone through that system of delaying putting the information out and then making what we do put out incomprehensible to lay people. The research is impeccable. The scientists that we've worked with all have amazing reputations, and I think anybody that wants to say that this is a hoax or wants to say that it's anything other than something really unusual that needs to be examined more closely is really just impugning the reputation of a lot of really fantastic scientists, and I'm always sorry to hear that.
Yes. As I say, it's just when we've Googled it to get some questions for you for tonight, if you can understand that, it's not something we've taken on board, it's just some of the things that have come up. And please don't take offence.
Oh no, we don't take it personally, and I'm always grateful when anyone asks that question, because it is, anytime you're dealing with something controversial and something unusual, it's bound to come up. And the bottom line is that there are people out there that are doing bad research, and there are people out there that are hoaxsters, and it's hard to differentiate yourself from those people. But we really have done everything that we can, and at the end of the day, I think all of those critics are going to be thoroughly silenced, and none of it will matter anyway. It's all that will matter in the end is what gets written in the history books, and that's going to be that nothing like this skull has ever been seen before on this planet, and maybe that means that it's not from this planet.
Oh, that's fantastic. Steve has a question for you.
Yeah, I understand the DNA you have is mitochondrial DNA, and for those that don't know what that is, assuming I said it right, that's from the mother's side of the DNA, which gives you all your traits and things. And I understand there's 56 differences between the DNA from the skull and the human being.
We've done several rounds of DNA testing, and so it all gets a little bit confusing. The 56 differences is actually in a very specific gene in our body. It's called the FOXP2 gene, and you may have heard of it before because there was a lot of excitement a while ago about whether Neanderthals could speak the way that we could and whether their FOXP2 gene was the same as ours, because that's one of the main genes that controls speech. The thing about your FOXP2 gene is that it is incredibly important. You need it for the proper development of your brains, your lungs, your nervous system, your digestive system, your motor skills. Pretty much everything in your body is in some way related to the FOXP2 gene. Now, that doesn't mean it's the only thing that makes all of these systems work, but it's a crucial step on the way to getting everything right. It's a cog in a wheel that if you don't have that cog right, nothing in you is going to work right, and you basically aren't going to survive. You probably won't even ever be born if there's much wrong with your FOXP2 gene. Now, we all know what DNA looks like. We've heard the term double helix. It basically looks like a twisted ladder, your DNA. Each step in that ladder is called a base pair. And your FOXP2 gene is 2,594 base pairs. So basically 2,500 of those little steps in the ladder. Out of those 2,500 steps in the ladder, every single normal, healthy person on this planet has exactly the same steps in that ladder as every other person on the planet. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, what country you come from. Everybody's FOXP2 gene is exactly the same. Now, you can have one or two of those steps in the ladder be different and maybe survive it. Maybe you won't be able to speak, maybe there'll be something else wrong, but maybe in a few cases you can have one or two of those steps be different, and you're not perfect, but you're alive. The Starchild Skull, we've only recovered 211 of those ladder steps, 211 of those base pairs out of 2,500. And in that 211, 56 of those ladder steps are different. 56 base pairs different from what every single other human on the planet has. Now, this is what I mentioned earlier, where we found things in the DNA that we physically couldn't survive with. To have 56 differences in only 211 base pairs in your FOXP2 gene is absolutely mind-blowing. There is no way to explain this. There is no way to say this is some special kind of mutation or deformity or anything like that. If you can survive 56 differences in your FOXP2 gene, you aren't human. You categorically aren't human. We're talking about massive differences. An elephant only has 21 differences from every human on the planet. And obviously we're vastly different than an elephant. A frog has 26 differences. The Starchild Skull has 56 differences. So, I mean, this is just well and truly off the charts of anything that anyone's ever seen before.
Did it have similar tests to the crystal skulls by any chance? Shabba's asking whether he read somewhere that it had tests done on it like the crystal skulls did, and he said something about showing a disfigurement in the cranium region. Do you know anything about this?
I'm not quite sure what he means. The crystal skulls, for anyone who's not sure, are skulls made out of single blocks of crystal carved to look like a human skull, whereas the Starchild is an actual bone skull. So the kind of tests that you would do on bone and the kind of tests that you would do on stone, on crystal, are very, very different. I'm not quite sure. Is he able to be a little bit more specific?
The full question was that he thinks it's the skull of a disabled child, but you already mentioned that it couldn't have been. He said didn't have tests done on it like the crystal skulls, showing a disfigurement of the cranium region, thus showing the nasal passages as inverted and the mouth almost cleft-like. So
we have done just about every test that you can think of. We're pretty much down to DNA, and then we need to invent some new tests because we've found some things in the skull that are so different. There isn't actually a test invented for them yet.
Right.
But he is right. The Starchild Skull's face is very different than ours. For anyone that's looking at pictures of it on starchildproject.com, the front part of the face, where your nose and your cheekbones would be, has actually broken off of the skull. As I mentioned, they had a flash flood in the region, and actually the skulls got washed away with all of the other bones, but she was able to recover the two skulls, so that front part of the face was lost in the flood. But from what we have left, we know that it's frontal sinuses. That's the little pocket in the bone of your forehead, which really serves two purposes. It makes you absolutely miserable whenever you have a cold or a hay fever, and it gives your voice resonance. It's an important part of our ability to speak. If we didn't have that, we couldn't make the variety and the depths of sounds that we can. So the Starchild Skull does not have that at all. That frontal sinus, that little pocket in the bone of its forehead, it doesn't have that at all. That's very, very unusual. There are only a few recorded cases of that. And usually when you talk about someone who doesn't have those frontal sinuses, they do have them. They're just tiny little vestiges. It's not a full sinus. So that's a very unusual part of the skull. Its nose and its eyes are shaped very differently than ours and positioned differently on its head. Its eye sockets are incredibly shallow, to the point that they really couldn't accommodate an eyeball like ours. But we can see where there are muscular attachments inside the eye socket as if it did have an eyeball. So that's really stumped quite a lot of our experts trying to figure out what kind of eye it could have had in there. And the lower part of the face, unfortunately, we don't have the lower jaw. So all we have is parts of the cheekbones, and we have the place where the lower jaw attaches, where that mandible attaches into the skull. And all of that tells us that it had a very, very small lower face, much smaller even than a child. So a very, very unusual, narrow, small lower face, and a very unusual broad forehead. And for anyone wondering, yes, there are genetic conditions and various other ailments that can make you look somewhat like this. But anytime it's like Newton's law, there's always, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There's always something that causes a face or a head to be shaped a certain way. There's always, for example, if the eye sockets are much shallower, it usually means that the bones at the back of the skull have fused together in an unusual way to make pressure to push those eye sockets out. And in the case of the Starchild, we don't have that unusual fusion at the back, but we do have the pushed out eye sockets. So we have looked at every possible scenario, and while an individual aspect of the skull might match a certain condition. For example, the low face matches a condition called progeria, which is a very tragic disease that affects children. Other features of the skull rule it out, and so it's really just been an amazing and arduous process going through each of these features and trying to find explanations for them, and so far we haven't found anything that can explain the whole skull.
So it can't... John in Minnesota has asked, so there's no chance of it being an offshoot or a mutation form of, I hate big words, neurofibromatosis or Down syndrome or something like that?
No, that facial feature of having the shallower eye sockets and the reconfigured face, as he points out, is very common in Down syndrome and various other conditions. There's absolutely no chance of that being what it is. Other features in the skull basically rule out those conditions. I'm sorry, was it John that wrote in the comment? John might also be interested to know, our brains are about 1,400 cubic centimeters. A very small, very petite person, or, for example, the skull that the Starchild was found with, who was a very small Mexican lady, about 5 foot tall, or a child about 12 years old, and anyone in that kind of smaller size range, you're looking about 1,200 cubic centimeters. So tiny person, 1,200 cubic centimeter skull. Normal person, 1,400 cubic centimeters worth of brain in their skull. The Starchild has 1,600 cubic centimeters of brain, so it actually has an increased brain over what we have.
Right, okay. Steve's back again.
Yeah, two things for you. One, I understand that the Starchild Skull is not only thinner than ours, but a lot harder, with some kind of fibre in it to strengthen it. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also, one of our listeners, Andy, has pointed out that on Wikipedia they're mentioning 2 DNA tests that was done on it, and they're both saying human.
Well, I'll answer your first question and then we'll talk about DNA. The bone of the skull is indeed between 1/3 and half as thick as our bone, so much thinner than our bone is. But it is much harder, to the point that when our geneticists went to cut a sample of the bone using a bone cutting saw, an electrical rotary bone saw like they use in hospitals and morgues and things like that, which is specifically designed to cut human bone. It cuts through our bone like butter. That bone literally bounced off the Starchild skull, and in the end they switched to a diamond-coated blade and were able to get a much cleaner cut. So yes, dramatically harder than our bone. Unfortunately, there are a number of different ways that you can test bone hardness, and most of them are really quite destructive. So unfortunately, we haven't gotten approval yet to do that kind of testing to determine exactly how much harder it is than ours. But we do know that it is significantly harder to cut. And when we've looked at cross-sections of the bone under very powerful microscopes, we have indeed found very unusual fibers inside the bone. Now, we've had these examined by fungal and bacterial experts, and they say that they aren't any kind of contamination. They don't look like anything they've ever seen before, but these are definitely inside the bone, and because of the way that they look at this cross-section, a section of the bone that has been cut by that saw, we can see that the ends of those fibers are frayed. They're not cut cleanly. Now, if those fibers were weak or soft, they'd just cut through cleanly. The fact that they're frayed and looks like they've gone through some stress to get cut indicates to us that those fibers are actually quite durable and could be a main part of why the bone is as strong as it is. The other element is that the bone has much more collagen in it than normal human bone does. It's chemical makeup is actually a lot more like tooth enamel, which, as you know, is the hardest substance in your body. So we have a number of reasons why this bone could be as hard as it is. Those fibers are one of the things I mentioned, that no one has ever seen anything like this before. So we have to invent a protocol to remove those fibers without contaminating them, so we can test them and find out what they are. So that's definitely on our to-do list. But for the moment, all we have is the microscopic images and the say-so of mycologists that they don't appear to be any kind of post-mortem contamination, that they do appear to be part of the bone. So that it's all very exciting. It's just one more facet of this skull that is so dissimilar to anything that's ever been seen on Earth before. People get very excited at the possibility that this could be not from this planet, or if it is from this planet, we're really going to have to rethink all of our definitions of what being a human and what being an Earthling means. Now, to jump to your second question about the DNA testings, as I mentioned earlier, we do shoot ourselves in the foot sometimes by putting out information as soon as we have it. And so we have done several rounds of DNA testing. The first round we did in 1999. Now, you have to understand that DNA testing is progressing in huge leaps and bounds. 1999 was the absolute stone age of DNA testing, and it was very expensive, and there were only a few labs in the world that were testing ancient DNA. Now, ancient just means anything older than 50 years. So to test your DNA or my DNA or another living person is one thing. To test someone that's been dead 20 years is another thing. To test something that's been dead 50 years is a completely different story. You get much more contamination of the DNA. The DNA actually breaks down over time. So instead of having a whole complete book, it's like somebody's pulled all the pages out of the book and scattered them all over the place and mixed 50 other books' pages all in together with them. So it's a much more complicated process. And the lab that we were able to get access to in 1999, unfortunately, was only set up for testing fresh DNA. It was a forensic lab. It wasn't set up to test DNA that was 900 years old, and so we had several contaminations, and then eventually did get a result that was about a fifth of the minimum amount of DNA that was needed at the time for the machines to get an accurate read on it. But it was the best we could do, and so we went with it, even though it was possibly a contamination and really wasn't a sufficient amount of DNA for us to get an accurate reading on it. But that test came back saying that it was a human male. And so at the time, a lot of people dismissed it as this is human and everybody go home, nothing to see here. But thankfully, Lloyd Pye wanted a second opinion is basically what it came down to, and had to wait, that was 1999, had to wait until 2003 until he could get that second opinion, until he could get access to one of those ancient DNA labs that was specifically set up to handle 900-year-old DNA. Now, when that lab did the testing, they were unable to get the same result that the other lab had gotten. Now, no geneticist is going to badmouth one of his colleagues. I don't think any professional would badmouth one of their colleagues, but they did tell us at the time that it was highly improbable that they, with their years more sophisticated equipment, I mean, we're talking several generations on from what was used in 1999, with much more stringent conditions, people wearing clean suits in a pristine lab instead of students who were actually doing the work back in 1999 in the kind of lab that you probably used in high school chemistry. So a completely different situation, much more sophisticated equipment, and yet they were unable to get the same result that we had in 1999. So that really confirmed for Lloyd, and I think for a lot of the people following the project, that 1999 result was a contamination and was not actually Starchild DNA that we were looking at. So in 2003, they weren't able to get the same result as in 99, but they were able to get a result, and the result that they got did find some human mitochondrial DNA, which, as you said, mitochondrial DNA only comes from your mother. It's very similar in all of us. It's just a small amount of your DNA, and it basically does housekeeping stuff in your body. It tells your DNA how to repair itself in certain ways, and does a number of other little just kind of housekeeping jobs within your body. Your nuclear DNA is a much bigger package, and it comes from both of your parents, and that's what gives you all your individuality. So they were able to find a small amount of mitochondrial DNA, which again just comes from the mother, which did look human. And that led to the theory that perhaps it was a human-alien hybrid with a human mother and a non-human father, because when they went to look for human DNA from the father, they were confident that there was DNA there, but the equipment wasn't able to recover it. Well, it wasn't able to recover any human DNA, and at the time you could only look for one specific thing. You could look for human DNA, you could look for chimp DNA, you could look for whatever, but if it was a little bit off human or a little bit off chimp or a little bit off anything else, you wouldn't get any recovery, which is exactly what happened with the Starchild. So everyone got very excited, thinking, well, its father must be different enough from human that we aren't getting a result, but its mother is human or is close enough to human that we are. So that was back in 2003. So now we jump forward to 2010. Now we're light years ahead in terms of what DNA can do. I mean, they've literally been able to recover DNA from Neanderthal fossils. So just a huge leap and bound. It's like the difference between the old dial-up telephones and your new smartphones. Huge leaps forward in technology. And now we've been able to recover some of that DNA that is was in 2003 too far from human for us to be able to see it. Now we can recover it, now we can see it. So we know that the Starchild skull does indeed have some parts of its DNA that are very, very close to human, enough that the computers can match them up and say, oh yeah, this is from human chromosome 1 or this is from human chromosome whatever. Other parts of the skull's DNA, however, are so different from not just human DNA, but from anything else on the planet, that when we've tried to process that DNA through these massive databases of genomes from just about every kind of creature that you can imagine, everything from bacteria to fish to mammals to chimps to humans, it hasn't been able to find any matches whatsoever. We're basically talking about DNA that's substantially different from anything that we've ever seen on this planet before. So within the same skull, we have some of the DNA that's very close to human and some of the DNA that's so far from human it may not even be from this planet. Now, that could mean that it's a hybrid, but our geneticist is fairly confident that it's not some kind of a hybrid, that that's just what this being's DNA looks like. Now, I'm sure we've all heard the statistic, we share half our DNA with bananas and that sort of thing. So just by virtue of the fact that it has some human-like DNA doesn't necessarily mean that it has human components. It just means that there are certain things that all of us need to be able to do. We have to be able to breathe the same air, drink the same water, live on the same planet. And so it stands to reason that there would be some elements of this skull that are similar to us just because we're all living in the same environment. So that's basically where we are at the moment with the DNA testing. We've done some preliminary runs. We're a long way from finished. Recovering a whole genome takes quite a bit of time and effort and money. And so we're working our way through that process at the moment. But the results that we already have, those preliminary results, like the FOXP2 result, are just so exciting. We're really looking forward to what's going to come out of it with future testing.
Well, we've got so many questions, so you'll have to bear with me because I'm really jumping up and down. I'm not sure if I'm still on. I thought I might have lost my battery on my mic. But I just want to say on the Wikipedia thing, just in prosecution of them, I actually used a part of their write-up once for an investigation that I was going to do, and I was contacted by them and said they've got that wrong. So they do get it wrong on quite numerous occasions, I think. So please try not to...
well, the thing with Wikipedia is that people upload to Wikipedia. It's not Wikipedia themselves.
Yeah. So
on the DNA thing you was mentioning there, John from Minnesota was asking the skull that was found with it. Were any tests done on that to see if there was any relationship?
Yes, actually, every test that we do, we test the other skull as well because they were found together in the same mine tunnel. They are the exact same age, so they were buried there together. And so it's a fantastic way for us to have a control. Every test that we do on one, we do on the other. And so we know that the other skull is completely normal human. We've had no trouble recovering any of its DNA. She is a female. She is from haplogroup A, which is a perfectly normal, common genetic group for that region of Mexico, especially at that point in time. And she is not genetically related to the Starchild. Now, if you believe the theory that there was alien involvement, perhaps she was impregnated with a fertilized egg and she carried it to term, and maybe she was the birth mother even though she's not the genetic mother. But as far as genes are concerned, she's absolutely not related to the Starchild skull.
And has anybody been back to these tunnels and to see if they can find anything else down there?
No, unfortunately, that's going to be a very expensive expedition for us because the lady who found the skulls really didn't talk about them very much. She just left a very vague story, and then they passed through the hands of several private collectors after her, and so we don't actually have a way of getting back in touch with her. We think once the profile of this skull is raised enough, there'll probably be some family member of hers that remembers, oh, that was great grandma so-and-so's funny skull in the cardboard box, I remember that. and we'll be able to find out what that village is. But for now, all we know is that it's approximately 200 miles southwest of Chihuahua, in a region where there are literally tens of thousands of these mine tunnels. So it would just be it would be a needle in a haystack, very expensive proposition. We hope to go back at one stage, but for the moment, we're just trying to work with what we have and hoping to have the resources in the future to try and find any other skulls or skeletons that may be like this.
Yeah, excuse my lack of geography knowledge, but is that somewhere in the Aztec region?
Not really, and it's a different time period. When you're talking about the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Olmecs, all of that's a little bit further south.
Right. Okay.
The Copper Canyon region, it's basically like the Grand Canyon in America. It's a high desert environment. There have been people living there for a very long time. I'm not actually sure who built the mine tunnels, and I'm not sure what purpose they would have served. That'll be something else that'll be interesting for us to find out as we move forward. But it seems to be one of those things where there was some sort of ancient civilization there that dug these tunnels quite deep into the cliffs. But these days they're occasionally used for cave dwellings, and that's about it.
Right. Going back to one that Shabba, Ian, he actually asked, he said, why are there no more skulls like this found? Well, you basically touched on that from around this time then. Why is there only one? And he also asked, if we had seen John Merrick's skull, the Elephant Man, and dated it from thousands BC or millions BC, would this be classed as a similar star child, or when it says as it is recorded in history, and so are the images of him with his disfigurement, would it be similar, or would you say no?
No, John Merrick's condition is very, very physically different than the Starchild's, but also his DNA is still fundamentally human.
Right.
There'll be that one tiny little section that has that condition that caused him to develop in that way, but he's a human, and that's what his DNA would say. So it wouldn't matter what he looked like. We would be able to do a DNA test and say, oh, this is a human.
Yeah.
And so that would be the end of it.
Right, okay. Nigel 333, he's asking, looking at it from a sensitive psychic point of view, have you ever tried psychometry while holding the skull in order to get any information about its owner?
No, unfortunately, I don't have any gifts in that direction, but we have had dozens and dozens of psychics look at it. We actually had an event where we brought together a number of sensitives and gave them each time with the actual skull. The skull these days is under lock and key and nobody really gets to see it. We just have a replica that people get to look at. So these sensitives were able to actually touch the real skull and spend time alone with it individually, and each give their impressions of it. And unfortunately, I think there were about 14 of them. Every single story was different, and unfortunately I don't think we've ever heard two stories exactly the same. So I'm sure somewhere along the line we've heard the exact and absolute truth, but there have been so many sensitives that have looked at it and given different impressions, everything from it was perfectly happy and it was in love to it was horrible and it was tortured, and we just really don't know which of those stories was the true one.
I think we've got some more questions in the chat room, haven't we, Steve?
Shabba's
jumping down.
Because Shabba's been busy there posting, so I just got to check it. Nigel says, could it be a race of beings that originated in the tunnel? And John followed up with the makeup and the skulls being a hard bone with these fibres. Could that be because of the minerals in the cave?
To answer the first question, I don't know that we would ever be able to prove one way or another whether it lived in the cave during its lifetime. We know from an inorganic chemistry analysis that it was eating food and drinking water from that general Copper Canyon region in the months before it died. I think it's very unlikely that there's a subterranean race living in these mine tunnels, just because, as I said, some of them are used today as cave dwellings by modern humans. So I think if there was a subterranean area expansive enough to support a community, I think it would have been found. I mean, this is an area that is inhabited these days. So I won't rule it out for you, but I think it's very, very unlikely. Now, in terms of the, oh gosh, I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question? Something about the bone?
Yeah, would it been hard to, was it living? Could it be living in the tunnels? In the tunnel. With the fossils and stuff from the cave actually making the bone harder?
Oh, yes, the minerals of the tunnel making the bone harder. No, that's not really something that you can do to this extent. There are conditions that make your bone thin, but they tend to make it weak, and there are conditions that make your bones harder, things like hypercalcification, where you get calcium deposits in the bone that can make it harder. But there's no evidence of anything like that. The skull is harder because of collagen, not because of minerals. It's basically this way because its genes told it to grow this way, not because of anything ambient in the environment or because of anything that happened post-mortem. And thankfully we do have that other skull that was found beside it that we're able to use and see exactly what degree of change or impact the conditions around the skulls could have had since they died. So good thought, but in this case I think the answer is no.
Right, we've got two similar questions from two different people. Andy707 would like to know if how you're funding the project, and John at 6 Cents would like to know if there's any government input into this project.
Well, the question about fundraising is we've funded a lot of it out of our own pockets. We've had a few fantastic major donors along the way, and we've had a lot of very small donations, just, $2, $5, $10 along the way. So we have done specific fundraising for specific things, things like I believe the carbon-14 testing to find out that it's 900 years old. Lloyd told people we need X amount of money, and the donations came in for that. Myself and the other members of the project don't draw a salary from it. Basically all of the money that we get goes to funding testing, paying for the website, paying for events that we do about the skull. So that it's I wish we had big bucks coming in from somewhere, but unfortunately at this point it is really a shoestring operation. But we in terms of getting government involvement, we've recently begun applying for grants, research grants, which is where different organizations ask for people to submit proposals to do different sorts of research, and they basically give you the money to do it. So we've gotten to the point now where we have enough information in things like the FOXP2 gene and the other genetic testing that we're doing to be able to submit for that kind of grant. But it's really just been a struggle to get everything to this point where we have enough information that the mainstream will start paying attention to it. As far as the government goes, we've never gotten any financial support from them, but we have actually had some cooperation from the US government, just in terms of giving us permission to move the skull around the country and move it over borders and things, without giving us any trouble, which can be a bit of an issue when you're dealing with remains like this. So really we've never had any visits from Men in Black or any organizations like that. Everyone that has found out about it has either thought, oh, well, this is a load of rubbish, or has gotten incredibly excited about it. And thankfully over the last few years the number of people that are getting excited are starting to outnumber the people that think it's rubbish. So we feel like we're finally moving in the right direction.
Yeah. John from Minnesota has asked, what are the thoughts of the skull in the anthropology community, if I pronounced that right?
Well, actually, Lloyd Pye, who I've mentioned a few times, went to Tulane University in Louisiana, which is a well-recognized academic institution that has a fantastic anthropology department, and that was one of the first places that we took this skull. And we spoke to, I'm not going to be able to remember their names now, but we spoke to a number of people in the department who at the time suggested various deformities and things that might account for the skull. But this was back in '99, before we'd done any DNA testing, before we really knew anything about it. And since then, with the new information that's come out about it, the last time that anyone from the Tulane Anthropology Department was interviewed for a documentary, instead of saying, well, I think it's this deformity or I think it's that deformity, they said, well, I used to think it was probably cradle-boarded hydrocephaly, but with the new research, now I don't know what it is. So that's a very positive step forward for us.
Right, he also goes on to ask, but I'm not sure if you've actually answered this, to be honest with you. Are there any thoughts of getting DNA from those who are working or living in the cave and see if there is any correlation in the DNA? But the location's been lost, hasn't it?
The location's been lost, and the people who would be living there would be modern-day descendants of the kind of people like the woman that was found with the Starchild skull. If they were beings like the Starchild skull, they would just stick out like a sore thumb, little 4-foot-tall people running around with massively enlarged craniums and weirdly shaped faces. I mean, I'm sure we'd have seen it on television or something by now, that there's this community of incredible people living somewhere. I hate to say it, but America is so fond of seeing things out of the ordinary. I'm sure that some film crew or other would have gone down there by now. So I think it's very, very unlikely that there is a community of Starchild-like beings living anywhere. We still hope to find possibly other remains, but the story that makes more sense to me than anything about how this being could have come to live in that location is something called the Star Being, or the Starchild legends, which says that aliens or angels or whatever you want to call them, beings from the sky, came down and would impregnate women non-sexually. They're very, very similar to things like the virgin birth in the Bible or various other stories where you have women, in some cases women who are otherwise incapable of having children, who are barren, who suddenly get told, you're going to have a child, look after it, we're going to come pick it up in a few years, and everybody had better have been nice to it in that time period. And that area of Mexico, and in fact most communities around the world, have some version of that story somewhere in their mythology or in their history. But it is very prevalent in that part of Mexico, these star being legends of women being impregnated and then those beings from the sky coming back after a few years to pick that child up and take it away with them. Well, what happened if this is one of the beings that they didn't pick up, or if it got sick or otherwise died? There's nothing on the skull that tells us why it died, unfortunately. There's no nice, convenient, obvious head wound or anything like that. But it could have had some sort of illness. It could have had an injury to another part of its body. We really just don't know. But for whatever reason, if that's what happened, this is one of those beings that got left behind, and that would explain why this is, to our knowledge, the only one, and maybe a few of just a handful of this kind of being on the planet. Yeah.
So what's your theory? What do you think? Do you think it's alien? Do you think it's what do you hope it is, or what do you think of the whole thing?
I think it's very likely that it's an alien. I would bet my life that it's not a human, that it's at the very least a new humanoid species, which is an enormous change from what we think about evolution and what we think about the human family tree. But the trouble with something like an alien is, how do you prove that it's alien? If it's something you've never seen before, you can prove that it's something you've never seen before, but how do you prove that it's actually an alien? So I think that I don't know if there's ever going to be a way to actually prove that one way or another, but I think that for certain we have a new species here, and whatever comes after that is going to, I think, rewrite history for everyone on this planet.
So what's next for the Starchild Project? What's the next step to do? Is it just more tests, so to speak?
It certainly is. We are working with the same genetics team that we connected with in 2010. They're an independent lab in America who is continuing to do DNA testing for us and continuing to pull out new and amazing things every several months. And a lot of that is just to do with new technology becoming available. At the moment, it's almost literally once a year there's some new fantastic DNA testing machine that comes out that tells us something that we didn't know before. So we're continuing with that testing. We have less than 1% of the genome at the moment, so we've got the other 99% to do. And then it's going through that process that we talked about earlier, where you triple verify your results and then you go through peer review, and then eventually somewhere along the line you actually get to publish them. But while all that's going on, we do hope to make a documentary or two so that the information is available to normal people like me who wouldn't otherwise be exposed to something that's in a scientific paper. So we at the moment, as the way things are moving, the rate at which we're recovering things from the skull, we really feel like we're in the home stretch, and we're all very much looking forward to getting the rest of the results and making that information available to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible.
We've got somebody in the hub with us, Nigel. He's written a book about his portal that he's found in Settle in North Yorkshire. Not Seattle, Settle. And he's just said that it's in his book that there was a 15-foot tall, 15-year-old Neanderthal that was found in the cave near to where the portal was. So maybe there could be some sort of interdimensional being of some kind.
I'm afraid that my quantum physics is a little bit rusty, so I might have to leave that one. I'm afraid I don't have the expertise to discuss it, but I will say that my colleague Lloyd Pye is convinced and has some very compelling evidence to suggest that the beings that we call Bigfoot and Sasquatch and all of those other hominoid type creatures in the world are remnant Neanderthals. They're pre-humans that didn't go extinct. I mean, there was no real reason for them to go to extinct. The climate improved. It's not like life got harder for them. They just got relegated to more isolated parts of the world where the modern humans weren't taking over things. So I think Lloyd would probably tell you that Neanderthal very likely was just some sort of Bigfoot that was living in that cave, and maybe it just enjoyed the energy of the portal. It wasn't necessarily something that came through it. But I'm certainly always intrigued by the possibility of time travel, but I'm not sure that that's something that I'm qualified to speak to in any way.
Nigel says you're spot on, apparently, so he agrees with you. But would you be willing to come back on again sometime in 2013 and give us an update of what's going on with the skulls?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always happy to come back on when we have new information. It's just tricky because we never know when we're going to have the next breakthrough.
Yeah. So, well, you have my email address. So if anything does come through, sort of like stop press or whatever, then obviously we can arrange to get you back on the show to let us know what's going on.
That would be fantastic, and I'd recommend to you also to go to the website starchildproject.com, and all of your listeners as well, and there is a mailing list that you can sign up to so that when we do have those major breakthroughs, you won't miss anything. We don't send out a whole lot of emails. It's just when something important is happening, so it's a good list to be on.
Right, so basically that is the proper place to go to, not Wiki, not anywhere else. That is where you'll get all the information on the skulls, the proper information.
It's where you get the most recent information, and I'm probably not supposed to admit this, but we're actually redoing the website, so it's going to look gorgeous in another month. Okay. And the information will be much easier to access. It's just we've gotten so much now, we've done so much research, we have so many reports that it can be a little bit dense, but bear with us, we're redoing it. And it's going to really be fantastic, hopefully very shortly. But feel free to go to Wikipedia, feel free to go to other places, but the most accurate information and most of the questions that you'll get from going to those other places, you'll find answered on the website.
Is there a book on this that people can get? Did Lloyd Pye do one?
There's a hard copy book which unfortunately is several years out of date now, so the best thing to do, it's available on starchildproject.com and lloydpie.com. There's actually an ebook about the Starchild Skull which gets updated as each new piece of information comes out. So its last update was just a couple of months ago. And so that will give you the absolute most current, most useful information. And it's written in a really succinct, bang, 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 almost dot point kind of way. So you can get all of the information really, really quickly. It only takes about 3 hours to read. If you're a slow reader like me, if you're really fast, you can probably knock it out in an hour or an hour and a half. Right. But it's it's just the best and easiest way to get all the information. There's videos on YouTube. However you like to get your info, you'll be able to find stuff about the Starchild. We're really trying to cover as many bases as possible.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Amy, for joining us on the show. And it's been really good. John from Minnesota said it's a good site. I was just looking at it last night. Very informative. So,
thank you, John.
Okay, so he said, thank you, Amy, for your time, he says. So,
well, you're all very welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll be very happy to come back on anytime you like.
Yeah, and Reiki Dev said she'd rather get the info from source instead of Wikipedia. But that's their preference.
Oh, well, good for you. I mean, as you say, Wikipedia is a good tool, and it's certainly a great starting point, but it should really never be the last place you look for information.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We wish you all every success in your research and on the project, and we hope you find what you're looking for.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we will.
Okay, well, thanks again, Amy, and take care, and I hope you have a safe journey when you go back to your homeland.
I certainly will. Thanks again.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Well,
that was Amy Vickers, and I hope you did enjoy it. As I say, I know we are paranormal investigators, but it does cover quite a big genre.
It does. I mean, how many times have we spoke about UFOs and aliens and the likes? I actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did. She's just actually text, great show, thanks for having me on. So that was good.
You're welcome. And I mean, there's Nigel, Joe, Debs, John. They've all
yeah,
said
but as I say, I know it can be a little bit hardcore for some of these the people that are just into ghost hunting out there.
It can be. I mean,
but this is what the KTPF's all about. It's about everything, isn't it?
Something like that. I mean, a lot of when you start going into DNA and stuff like that, can go right over your head.
Oh yeah.
And Dev did a good job there of actually making it understandable.
Yes, she did. She really did. Amy done very well. What did you think, John, to all that? I know you sat there quietly.
I thought it was quite interesting, especially the bit because I was watching a documentary a couple of weeks ago.
Speaking to the mic.
Oh, sorry. I was watching a documentary a couple of weeks ago about females that have had alien abductions and been impregnated. And
check that poll.
I will check the poll. Yes.
Yeah,
that's something that Shabba was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was quite interesting. It reminds me of Scully and Mulder, does it, Nigel?
Mulder and Scully.
No, that was really interesting. And like I've always said, there is a whole lot to this paranormal, supernatural, strange phenomena out there. It's not just down to looking for spirits. And 9 times out of 10, you never know. You can cross-reference. You can go to places which have got UFO sightings and find that they have spiritual connections as well. John mentioned, I put it on the website, on the Facebook page rather. John mentioned, has anybody ever been to a place where they do crop circles, or whether they've seen crop circles or UFO sightings and done EVP sessions to see whether anything's picked up?
Yeah, I mean, and you were talking to Steve about this.
I was talking to Steve Mayer earlier from Map It and Phenomena Magazine, who actually recommended the KTPF Paranormal Show. And he was actually saying, John from Minnesota, that he has actually
my teeth are working. Do you want me to do
it? Go on.
Yeah, he was saying that at the UFO sightings and possible landing sites, they've actually got nothing from there, but from the crop circles, they seem to get a weird sound.
Yeah.
A bit like what we were getting recently, and they said it was the. They say it was the earth plates or something that was moving.
The earth plates or something.
Making the humming.
Imagine saying that you could do an EVP session at Nigel's portal place as well. We might get something. Well,
we actually wasn't far from Settle the other day.
No, we wasn't. Yeah,
it wasn't far.
We went the other way around, didn't we?
We did.
Right. Anyway, so well, that was the Starchild.
Yeah, John said more like an EMF sound.
Yeah, more like an EMF sound.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So, right. Okay. Incidentally, talking about EMF, if I get this right, when we was with Simply Ghost, Joe would verify this, at Ripon Museum at the weekend, Stuart was showing me this gadget, wasn't he, that creates EMF?
Yeah, they've got two. It actually fills the building with EMF.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's. I think the idea is it's an energy that spirit interacts with, so it makes it easier.
At the end of the day, they're all experiments. Nothing's really been made for this sort of thing. But, you know, I'll give you an example.
If it works, it works.
We did the Museum of Transport last week. The week before, and we've always had this theory, and Neil will back me up, that if you use a red light or an ultraviolet light, it's that warming and it can coax spirit towards you instead of a bright white light. My theory is, if spirit doesn't want to go to the white light, the white light, then they're not going to come to you with a bright light torch, you know.
Yeah.
And we got mummed at, didn't we? I've never heard this sort of thing before, but at the end of the day, it's all experiments.
We did, but things have got to be... I mean, it's kind of been proved that you get more interaction with a warming red light.
Yeah.
I mean, just about every medium will tell you that. So it stands to reason. You've got a big bright light there. It's going to be. I mean, would you look at a big bright light?
No, I wouldn't.
No,
because it does blinding as well.
I mean, John Silver would be better off with a Tesla coil.
Yeah.
That might be a bit expensive.
Yeah, I think it would. Everything is energy, says Nigel. Ghost spirits, UFOs, and us, so we can conduct similar experiments in all investigations. Yeah, well, we actually do create a certain amount of energy, don't we?
Well, you do try. I mean, you can only do so much because, I mean, the human condition says that there's only so much energy that we personally can create. But you push so much energy out there and hope you're going to get something coming back.
This is it. Well, I need to contact Andy Mercer soon, so I don't know whether we're going to do it via Skype or by the phone, if he's available.
Are we going to do the paranormal news in the meantime?
But we are going to do everything else in the meantime. But I'm going to do this first, the paranormal news, and then we'll go into the events, and then we'll come back to Andy. I'm here, he says. I'm here. Bright light damages spirit that I use to the dark. A bit like a coal miner coming out of the pit after a 12-hour shift. Gremlins don't like bright lights. No, they don't.
Bright light.
That was Helen. Right, okay.
Did you read what Helen said earlier? She actually said they can come down and impregnate us in there for a while. They'll be welcome.
Yes, they can do me as well while they're at it. Right, okay. As we were about
I'm
to
telling
say.
this Starchild off and I end up floating through the bleeding ceiling. So
Right, for those of you who just joined us, there is a poll on the Facebook page if you'd like to go and have a look. If you would like controversy on the show, then we are prepared to try and get a certain Northwest group that are trying to find the body of the final missing Moore's murder victim on the show. If that's what you want, go and say yes. If you're not interested, then say no. There's also another poll on there. Our Christmas show. Our show falls on Boxing Day.
Yeah, I suppose the Christmas show.
Yes. Now, do you want us to come on the show and do what we do? I can't see us getting any guests though.
I think everybody will be busy doing their own thing.
Yeah, or would you like us to have the week off?
Yeah, and come back after the New Year.
And come back on the 2nd of January, or maybe the week after. Okay,
have 2 weeks off.
Relax, take it off. Yeah, the sad one is me. I beg your pardon. Oh yeah, I've got a happy and a sad gizmo.
Yeah,
right,
someone loves Gizmo.
So have a look on the Facebook page. There are a couple of questions on there that if we do need your feedback, ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please. This is your show, okay? This is your show. We run for you. So therefore, if you want to see it, if you want to hear it, then give us some ideas. Tell us what you want, and we will try and do that for you, okay? So remember that. That's why we want you to phone in and talk to us, because we want you getting involved. It's interactive. This is what we want, okay?
Yes, and if you have any paranormal news, let us know. I mean, I picked up on something the other day that said, breaking news. NASA and SETI have got a signal coming from the moons of Jupiter.
Yeah, came in on a news feed.
And it came on a news feed this week. And when we Googled it, it actually happened in January last year.
Yeah, so
that was well breaking news, wasn't it?
Very breaking. Well, anyway, let's get on with the paranormal news. Right, a grapefruit-sized eyeball has been washed up in the US, leaving scientists baffled about exactly where or what it came from. The big blue eyeball was found by a local man, Gino Cavacchi, on Pompano Beach, north of Fort Lauderdale, on Wednesday. Okay, he weren't watching the show, but he was kicking this ball about, eyeball about, apparently.
I do hope not.
No, that's what it said on YouTube when I looked at it.
He was kicking it?
Yeah, he was just kicking the sand and kicking it along, and realised it was real and fleshy. Wildlife officials are still trying to determine its origin and have put it on ice so it can be analysed at the Florida Fish and Wildlife Research Institute at St. Petersburg. They thought it was a squid or a whale.
Yeah. Well, they did before they actually saw it.
Our man in Minnesota is saying it was a sawfish. Do you know something we don't know, John? Have you been updated further?
Yes, tell us, John.
But it was quite big, though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was really large.
I mean, when people were shown pictures...
Grapefruit size.
That's a big eye.
That is a big eye.
Mind you, there's grapefruit and there's several different sizes.
He kept it to see him through the week. It's as bad as last week when we were talking about fingers in the fish. It's another fishy tale.
Yeah, okay. I mean, when people were shown pictures of this,
and
asked what they thought it was, they were saying candlestick holders and ashtrays and all sorts.
Oh, I don't know. That was bad. I can't. Okay, the other one is about the third prophecy of Fatima. Go on, Steve. I'm leaving that to you.
You're leaving that one to me. Okay. I don't know how many of you have actually heard this. There was 3 prophecies that were given by the Virgin Mary to a 10-year-old child. It says in 1944, Lucia wrote out the third prophecy as she said she heard it as a 10-year-old girl in 1917, sealed it and presented it to Portugal's Bishop of Leiria. Aha, got it. She told him Our Lady's instructions were it was not to be revealed to the public until 1960. The bishop turned it over to the prophecy to the Vatican, of course, and of course the Vatican said, nope, can't read that. I don't know why. In 1960, John Paul the 13th opened the sealed prophecy and read it, and the faithful anxiously awaited its promised revelation, but it was not to be. In apparent defiance of the Blessed Mother's instructions, the Pope refused to reveal the contents of the prophecy, saying, "This prophecy does not relate to my time." According to Catherine A. Keating, however, author of The Final Warning, Your Survival Guide to the New Millennium, Pope John XIII fainted as he read the third secret because it specifically states, according to eyewitnesses, that the Pope would betray the flock and turn his sheep over to the slaughter devised by Lucifer himself. I got a phone on me, yes, so they're actually talking about the anti-Pope, which is, do you want my mobile phone, you mean? On mine? Why would it be on mine? There you go. Interruptions. It has been speculated that subsequent popes have read the prophecy and likewise chose not to make it public. Now, 40 years later, the complete text of the prophecy has been released, but the controversy surrounding it is far from over, as it's thought to be watered down as to not to panic the faithful. What do you guys think about this Fatima prophecies? Does anybody know about the Fatima prophecies?
Well, we're not to panic.
No. Nope. So well, we haven't found the
just put your dialing code baloney. Is that right, Andy 707? Is that
yeah, he says the prophecies are baloney. I'm glad I didn't read that out when Lionel was on, because he would have gone over. I've heard him talk about this one before.
Right. To quote Mark Rosney on Facebook recently, "You know the world has gone mad when a man jumps from a balloon on the edge of space in an attempt to break the sound barrier in freefall, and all the majority of people on Facebook can comment on is sodding X Factor." So what do you think of that?
So who left X Factor?
I don't know. Australian Felix Baumgartner has become the first skydiver to go faster.
Was he Australian? Was he Australian or Austrian?
Austrian,
no, it sounded like you said Australian.
Can't hear a word you're saying, Suzanne. Why not?
Is your mic gone?
Oh, my mic's gone.
Well, I'll give you this one. You talk to them.
Yeah, I'll use this for a minute. Hold on. Oh, it's alright. My battery's finally died. Here you go. Let me turn that down. Right, 2 seconds. Right, I'll start again. To quote the Mark Rosney, "You know the world has gone mad when a man jumps from a balloon at the edge of the space in an attempt to break the sound barrier in freefall, and all the majority of people on Facebook can talk about is sodding X Factor." Austrian Felix Baumgartner has become the first skydiver to go faster than the speed of sound, reaching a maximum velocity of 833.9 miles per hour. Okay? Which is 24 miles, 39 kilometres above. Are we on?
Yes.
Above New Mexico. The 43-year-old also smashed the record of the highest ever free fall.
Yeah,
we missed about 5 minutes and then.
Yeah,
okay.
The pictures on the on YouTube.
Is that better?
Yeah. The pictures on YouTube were amazing. You can actually see the curvature of the Earth from where he was.
Yeah, he said he almost aborted the dive because his helmet visor fogged up. Oh yeah, they can hear me now. It took just under 10 minutes for him to descend. Only the last few thousand feet were negotiated by parachute. Once down, he fell to his knees. No, he didn't. He ran first.
Yeah, he did after he landed.
And raised his fist in triumph. Helicopter recovery teams were on hand moments later. Let me tell you, when I was standing there on top of the world, you become so humble. You don't think about breaking records anymore. You don't think about gaining scientific data. The only thing you want is to come back alive, he said afterwards at a media conference. If you missed it, okay, and want to see it in full, you can Google or YouTube Man Free Falls from Space 2012 full, yeah, which is actually youtube.com/watch/. You'd be better off Googling it. Okay, but you want the full one. If you go onto our website to the paranormal news section of the discussion area on the KTPF, you will find the paranormal news there and the link. All right, so can you imagine being up there looking down on Earth? So Joe said it's a bucket list next to KFC.
Well, I mean, at least we know how far you got to go to get nearly get out the atmosphere.
Oh yeah, but oh my God!
I mean, another mile.
I remember seeing it on YouTube and looking down. Oh God, it was awful. Yeah. Has everyone seen it by any chance?
Another mile, and it would have been in space.
Just
put the link on back. if you can get it.
I haven't got the link. If you go down, I don't know if it's
Deb's
open.
just seen it.
Yes, I've seen it. It's amazing. I didn't actually see it live. If you go down to the my toolbar, it might still be open and the link might be on there for you to paste it on. Highest I've jumped free fall was 4,200 feet on oxygen, and that was superb. Yes, I have seen it. I missed it, so YouTube it.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, just pick up the paranormal news bit on one of them. It's at the bottom there, so you can put the link on. So have a look. The link in question goes from start to finish. It calculates all the timings, his oxygen, how he was, and his data and everything.
He actually went into a spin, didn't he? And he thought he was going to have to cancel.
But all that they can talk about on Facebook, according to Mark Rosney, was X Factor. So who was it they got rid of? And when did this happen? A couple of days ago, wasn't it? Who went? That Masson girl, wasn't it? That Scottish...
Yeah, Michelle Masson.
Michelle Masson. So that was probably what it was all about.
The rock singer.
Yeah, have a look at that link. It was quite fantastic, actually, the way they've done it. Well, that was the paranormal news. Andy, you didn't answer my question. Andy707, is your telephone number starting with 01268? Please say yes or no, and I will give you a call.
Nigel, don't you dare!
Yes, good, I found it.
Did you see what Nigel said? Bring back the Wagner.
Right, okay, well what we'll do is... we'll go into the paranormal... no, we're not. The paranormal events for you, which I'll key up now.
Oh, yes.
2 seconds.
Talk radio.
Hey.
Yeah, just thought I'd throw that in. Right, okay, so we'll sort that out. I'll get hold of Andy, because Andy, if you weren't with us last week, he's going to talk to us about the fact that he was technically a medium. Yeah. Wasn't it?
Yeah, basically he's going to tell us about what he used to do with his past group, and he was saying that he's actually stopped the mediumship side
and we're
of
going to
things.
find out why and what and see whether he'll tell us what his reasons are.
Yeah.
So we'll see you after we've had the paranormal events for you.
And we'll do.
We've got all the news right here. Don't go away.
Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
Now here's one for our American listeners. On the 19th of the 10th, Dark Forest events are going to the Samsville Rectory in Cincinnati. Now back to the UK, and also on the 19th, Dark Hauntings Investigations are off to the Galleries of Justice in Nottingham. And that's not all. On the 19th, GC UK are off to Kershaw House Inn in Halifax. And on the 20th of the 10th, DI Paranormal UK are going to Morecambe Winter Gardens in Morecambe. And now for our monthly event on the 21st of the 10th, there's a Psychic Night at the Park Inn in Harlow. And on the 22nd of the 10th, it's the start of Paranormal Week 2012 at the Hartley Library in Runcorn. And now for the 26th of the 10th, there's a Halloween Spooktastic at Cornfield Hall in Derbyshire. And on the 27th of the 10th, there's a Halloween Ghost Fest in Derby 2012, the Psychic and Science Show in Derby. Also on the 27th, it's a Halloween special with the Haunting Team at the Old Hope Museum in West Bromwich. And on the 31st of the 10th, Spirit Watch events are at the Bell Inn in Nottingham. And on the 31st of the 10th, for those of you who don't know, the KTPF show will be live out on location at a supposed haunted location, where we will be including a live investigation in amongst our usual things, where you can still talk and get hold of us on the chat room and Skype as usual. So get involved in this one, people. We want to hear what you think and what you think is going to happen where we are. See you there. And for more information on these events and many more, go to paranormaleventsforyou.com.
So check out the one-stop paranormal directory for more investigations and events available now. ParanormalEventsForYou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. ParanormalEventsForYou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Yeah, well, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. That was the Paranormal Events for You. If you want to find out more about what's going on around the UK and also America, because they have started putting stuff on as well, you can go to ParanormalEventsForYou.com. And if you've got any events, then why don't you put them on? Because as I said, it is free. That's what it's there for. It's all part of the keeping the paranormal friendly.
Yeah, it's a free service. Just don't put your price. Just put a link to your site.
Yeah, that's all we ask for. Sorry about the shushing in the background. John's making a coffee. Right, okay. So we've got Andy707, otherwise known as Andy Mercer, on the phone. And he's going to tell us about his old group and what he's been doing and where he fits into the paranormal world in the past. So welcome to the show again, Andy.
Hello, nice to be on again.
Thank you for coming on. And right, so basically you're in Essex, is that right?
I am, yeah, down in the...
Yeah, can everybody tell us if they can hear Andy okay?
Well, I grew up basically, but it's not a bad little town.
Right, so I just want to make sure everyone can hear you okay. I can't with the kettle, actually.
Yes. Yes, Neil can hear.
Right,
John said it's good, Nigel says yes.
Right.
We're
So
good to go.
We're good to go, are we? So basically, what groups have you actually been with?
A number of different groups. My first foray into the paranormal began back in the 1980s with a chap called Andy Collins. He used to run a group called EarthQuest that was based down here in Essex. He was investigating all sorts of strange occurrences, ghosts, UFOs, the works. Andy went on to write a book called The Black Alchemist that became quite famous, and Seventh Sword and various other texts. He mainly does a lot about ancient civilizations now. But after sort of leaving that group, it kind of just broke up really, and so as Andy's writing career grew, I moved on to university, and then eventually after finishing university I joined a group called COTC, which is based down on the south coast in Worthing. So I sort of run around those guys for a few years before getting involved with, first of all, Fright Nights, the Paranormal Events Company, the original one apparently. Worked for him for a few years, and then also had my own group running called the IOPR, which had a very grandiose name of the Institute of Paranormal Research, which was quite funny but over the top, but ran that for a number of years before I must have been kind of closing it down because other people had different interests, so we sort of drifted apart a bit. Then worked at a company called the London Paranormal Society, run by Ian Shillitoe, who some might know from his appearances on Most Haunted. That was an interesting experience. Then working with John Blackman and Mysterio Paranormal Events now. So I've got my hand in a bit. I don't do an awful lot of events anymore, whereas I don't find the time, to be honest with you.
So that'll be John Blackburn then, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. John and I go way back. He used to come on Fright Night events when I was working for Fright Nights, and that's where we first met years ago. He's always been a good friend. It's unfortunately, most of his events are up your neck of the woods, not down here, so I don't tend to get to very many of them, but I try to.
And I believe Ian Lawman works a lot with him.
Yes, he does indeed. Ian's a great guy. I met him several times.
Right.
He's one of the most impressive mediums I've ever met, and I've met quite a few in my time.
So, and you used to do this sort of thing, I believe?
I did. I've always been what I would call a locations medium. I don't tend to talk to sort of the dead as such. I tend to be more in tune with the environment, the locations, if you like. Pick up on what the place would have looked like previously. And occasionally pick up on energies of voices and people talking, etc. This is where it gets controversial, and I think this is the difficult bit for me to talk about. I used to be involved in trance mediumship. Now, I can look back on my days doing that and think I was putting on a show. I was being over the top, overly dramatic. Yes, something was happening, but I made it bigger than it appeared to be, which you kind of get caught up in very easily. And I look back, I'm rather embarrassed when I think about it these days, particularly with my later career as I work as a psychotherapist now. I can look back at my younger self, if you like, doing those things and thinking this is a lot to do with what was going on in my own mind rather than anything supernatural. I say, there was stuff there. I mean, I was picking up on things, no doubt about it, but I was exaggerating it rather over the top. Quite deliberately for public events, understandably, but it was crossing the line from genuine to showmanship and theatrics, and I look back now and feel very uncomfortable with that aspect of what I was doing. So I took a decision a few years back that I was going to leave that part of the paranormal world behind. I do things, I still do on a day-to-day basis, and I've been on holiday only a few weeks ago, sitting around in a place in York thinking, oh God, there's so many things moving around me here. I'm not going to say anything. But I do my best to ignore what I'm getting and just continue to work on events as part of the hosting team, particularly the old camcorder and audio, which is much more my bag these days.
It can be hard. That a medium, some mediums, it can be hard to shut off. But if you're able to do that, then that's great, isn't it?
Well, I always could. It's like, the best way I can describe it is you can walk into the lounge with the TV on, but ignore the TV. It's there, but you just don't notice of it. And that's really how it was for me, was to kind of just tune it out and not connect with what I was picking up on. I just sort of leave it behind, if you like. I'd sense there was something there, but I wouldn't attempt to get any more information. I still will with locations. I'll go into a place, I can see how it used to look before. Then I find that bit still quite fascinating, but anything more active, then I tend to do my best to ignore, and found that it's literally, I have switched it off. I've switched that part of my mind off. It no longer works.
Don't forget, if you want to ask Andy any questions in the chat room, I'm sure he wouldn't mind answering them.
Of course not.
And Neil, if you've got any questions, being a medium yourself, just type away.
Andy, of all the groups that you've been with, like you were saying there, forgetting any personal people within the groups, which would you say you enjoyed most?
That would probably be my own, because I ran it. But no, I must admit, COTC, it were great fun to be involved with down the South Coast. Run by a woman called Stacey Logan and her ex-husband, now Stuart. And unfortunately, the third guy that ran the group passed away a little while ago, Adrian. But we were in the days before Most Haunted was even on TV, so there was only a few groups around, and we had easy access to all sorts of locations that today you couldn't possibly get into, or unless you're willing to pay lots of money. So it was great fun working with the OCC, I must say. But again, working for the companies is very different. Obviously, working for Fright Nights and Mysteria is a totally different kettle of fish compared to a small group. But unfortunately, as you guys probably know, most locations charge the earth these days, and the only way we can really get in is by being part of a company that can afford to pay those kinds of fees. So for me, the whole world of paranormal investigating has changed dramatically, and not for the better, unfortunately.
No. I know that Jason Carl's interview earlier, he said that the paranormal is dead, and there was a lot of reaction to that.
Come out with.
The bit that confused me, I must admit, afterwards, is that he did say that he was working on a programme with a twist, which is
a paranormal show.
Paranormal show,
and he's doing British Ghost with Michaela Strachan.
But
so it's obviously not dead.
No. Nigel said he can understand what you're saying. He said, but his guide always told him that he had to be honest and never exaggerate the info that came through.
Yeah.
Because if he did, it would stop. It's a trust thing.
Oh, there you go. I would say I never had any kind of guide or any kind of spirit connection. It was just literally direct communication. I was basically just saying what I was hearing in my head. But I would say it as if it was coming from me in trance medium state, and I could recognise that there were times when stuff was definitely happening where I did have moments where I just wasn't aware what the hell I was saying, but most of the time I knew full well I was putting it more dramatically in order to create an effect. So it was never a case of completely making it up. It was all genuine in terms of what I was very much over the top with it, because that's what people liked.
Do you find this with companies? Or with some groups, not necessarily companies, that they feel as though they need to entertain to...
Yes, that was very much the first company I was with. It was getting a little bit more like that, unfortunately, that you were putting on a show. Never to say you're not getting anything, what you might not be, but never say that. That was an odd way of doing things. I must admit, it had a downside in that the groups, the adventures, of more recent companies tended to be quieter than the early Fright Night stuff. But then that was because I think Martin was as much a showman as I am, so we were, between the two of us, put a hell of a show on, and it was fun. And see, it was never faked, but it was always, well, not always, but quite often a bit more over the top than it really was.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard stories. I've not really been with companies such as Fright Nights or anybody like that. Not that I'm saying Fright Nights do that, but we're talking about them in general because you've been with them. But we have heard stories about other companies that seem to have a lot of activity, and we've heard that maybe some are on the entertainment side of it. I couldn't tell you any names because I can't remember, but I'm only thinking of Fright Nights because you're actually talking about them. So so I'm not saying it's Fright Nights.
Well, we had one big company actually say there was poltergeist activity at Hyde Town Hall.
Hyde Town Hall.
And the person that always used to do the nights was actually a member of our team.
Yeah,
and
we bumped into him in Asda, didn't we?
Yeah, and we went, what's all this about poltergeist activity and stones being thrown? He went, it's news to me.
And he was there.
And he works there.
He was there every time there was an actual investigation on, and it was like, well, that's what they're saying, but I don't know. But this is where I'm saying I'm hearing about it, but it's just ridiculous. Neil said he's done trance work for 12 years now, but have never gone down the exaggeration route, and I also bring spirits back up with me who react with the audience.
Okay.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Not quite sure what it means at the last part, but yes, I mean, I was exaggerating. I will say no bones about it. It was genuine in terms of the getting stuff, and I will say that again at Fright Nights. Everything that happened was genuine. We never faked anything.
Oh, no.
It was over the top.
Yeah.
That was what was getting increasingly uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
But also, without going into too much technical detail, one of the works I read as I was training as a psychotherapist is Carl Jung's work on the paranormal and on so-called psychic phenomena. And he talked a lot about a niece of his who was basically a trance medium. And his later assessment of her was that there was some psychological disturbance, that subpart of personality had gone underground in her mind. And that's what was manifesting when she was in supposed trance. Now, for her, it was genuinely a separate entity within her that was talking. For Jung, it was a deeper part of self that wasn't always available to ordinary reality. And for me, as a psychotherapist, that made a lot of sense for a lot of mediumship work, that it's kind of tuning into what we call the collective unconscious, and the information that comes through is coming from that rather than directly from a spirit. And to me, that makes the most sense. He was quite scathing on a lot of so-called psychic phenomena in his earlier work, but as he got older and did a lot more research, he was much more open to the possibility, to the point in later life he was quite convinced that this sort of thing exists at a subconscious level with all of us, but it's the collective unconscious that's the source of the information, rather than a spirit world. If you follow what I'm saying. I'm trying not to get too technical, but it's...
Yeah, so your views have changed, basically.
Absolutely, yes, quite considerably. Not discounting it, only the origin of this sort of information, for me, has dramatically changed.
Yeah, so... But it's a personal thing on your respect, you know what I mean? So
Yes. For me, it was part of the process of training was to reintegrate those parts of sub-personality that have become separate, that we all have.
Yeah.
We all experience that. Even just down to the basics of, you're trying to make your mind up about something, you're in two minds on something. That is basically splitting a personality for a short period of time when you're discussing with yourself an idea of what you're going to do, whether you're going to buy the red car or the blue car. We all go through that.
Yeah.
It's perfectly normal. We all do that. But what can happen sometimes is those subparts of personality go very, very underground and are no longer able to access them directly. And only certain states can those parts of personality be accessed. And what he was basically saying was his niece was going into this kind of trance state, literally in a trance state, and those sub-personality parts were coming to the fore, coming to the surface, and were talking. And for me, that's what I felt was happening with a lot of the trance that I was doing. It was me.
Yeah.
Information was being provided externally to me. And it's how it's manifesting.
Yeah.
It's a bit complex there, but...
Now,
to some degree, it's true for all mediums that that's really what's going on. It's just how it presents itself.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, when Neil says about bringing spirit back with him, he does a demonstration of physical mediumship, and he has for the want of a better way of putting it, he has several guys that actually help him with that, and they come forward and actually move around the audience, so people can actually feel. The one time I saw him do it to large effect, everybody thought he was walking around the audience and he was still sat in the chair.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was quite interesting, that was actually. So.
I mean, again, for this, all this sort of thing is entirely possible. I only question the origins of the energy. That's my only difference in that. I would still say it's part of us that is actually moving around. It's like sort of unconscious projection, which to me is what I can ghosts are as well. But there's still the external energy is there. It's just that we, almost like a projector, so we have to be there for it to actually, the phenomenon to occur, because we are the projector of the image, of the energy, if you like, because we're tuning into the latent energy that's in a place, and then we activate it, if you like.
So what do you do now? Obviously you don't get much time to do the paranormal side of it unless they're in your area.
Yeah. Can I just
say
that?
That's the main problem, because I don't drive, so I'm always a little bit stuck, unfortunately. Unfortunately for me, most of his events tend to be in the Midlands and further north, because that's where he's from.
Yeah.
But the odd occasion when they do come south, they're off to Tunbridge on the 10th of November. I shall be going to that event, but as sort of the techie person with my camcorders and audio recording equipment.
Right, Steve?
Yeah, from what you were saying there, it sounds very much like it's you're talking about the subconscious that's actually interacting with whatever energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, that's bringing the information through.
Yes, exactly that. It's the collective unconscious, which is the deepest level of conscious awareness, that I believe the origin of all this information is that we bring up as so-called mediums. I mean, I don't like the term medium because I'm quite large, so you did me, but yes, I mean.
Right, so, well, thanks for explaining all that to us anyway.
No problem.
All right, and I hope you continue to like the show.
Yeah.
And put your input through. I know you hate Ghost Town, but I only record the first bit of it, the intro. So, well, thanks again anyway. Okay.
Sure. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to quickly type onto the message, but the title of that essay by Carl Jung, if anyone's interested in reading it, because it was quite a revelation. So.
Okay. Well, we've got John here. He wants to ask you a quick question before you go.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, Andy. Basically, my question is, I would say myself that I'm sensitive. Have you got any encouraging words of advice at all?
Mine, I would say always go with your gut instinct. Sometimes you'll get stuff and you'll think, oh, that makes sense. I can't be right. But always go with what feels right as soon as you get it. I remember one investigation I was involved in at Alton Towers, of all places, the actual old building, and I was getting all sorts of strange references to the Middle East and Near East that just didn't make sense. Babylonian stuff, Assyrian stuff. And it turns out the guy, one of the people who owned the place, was very much into that sort of part of the world and did actually bring out some statues that had stood in this particular room I was in, which wouldn't have thought would make any sense, but to me I said what I was getting and it was confirmed. So always go with your instinctual reaction to something. That's usually the subconscious telling you something important that is of value. So.
Okay. Thank you. Right, well, thanks very much then, Andy, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Absolutely. All
right, cheers, my love. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was Andy, normally in the chat room, that was quite interesting, wasn't it?
I would actually agree with what he's actually done, and backed off. If he found, apart from, I mean, obviously he's gone into the, he's a hypnotherapist now as well, Andy. So he's coming from a different direction now as well. But if I found myself that I was enhancing, not lying, but enhancing what I was getting to make it more dramatic for the people around me, I think I would have I'd back off as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said, he wasn't actually telling lies. He was telling them what he was getting, but he was just making it more dramatic. Which is that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He was making it more, because that's what they want to see most of the time, isn't it?
Yep, he's still here. He's still with us.
I've just, okie dokie. Right, so That was, well, at least he explained his.
He did.
What
He explained what he said last week about dropping out from the mediumistic side of things.
Yeah, this is it. So
that's cool.
So he's put the Carl Jung thing on there. God, all my contacts are popping up at the moment on
Skype.
On Skype.
They're all coming
talking to Matthew Dell at the moment. He's sent his bio over for next week.
Oh, cool.
News on that in a bit.
That's yes, guys. Matthew Dell.
News on that in a bit.
Are you going to tell him in a bit? Are you?
Yes, I am.
I won't say nothing then. I'll keep my trap shut.
So, right, I'm going to go into
I'll turn my mic off.
The haunted system, a haunted section.
Haunted system.
Section. Okay.
Yes. Sorry, Andy. She's back up north again.
Okay. Right. He said he's looking forward to the podcast. Right. Haunted section. We're now in Chester. Okay. York, Edinburgh and even Derby all lay claim to be England's most haunted city, but conveniently people seem to forget Chester in northwest England. Chester is an ancient walled city steeped in history. Some 2,000 years ago, Chester was founded as one of the 3 main Roman legionary fortresses in the province of Britannia. Okay, along with York and Carlion in South Wales. When the Romans left, Chester became home to successive waves of Celts, Vikings, Saxons and Normans. England's first medieval armies mustered at Chester for the war against the Welsh, and English troops bound for Ireland sailed from Chester. Royalist cavaliers defended the walled city for 18 months against their cruel parliamentarian besiegers. Chester was a powerhouse of Victorian prosperity. The city wall surrounded Chester in the medieval period. They started as a defensive structure for the fortress of Diva Victrix during the Roman occupation of Britain, originating between 70 and 90 AD. They consisted of earth ramparts surmounted by wooden palisades. Reputed to be haunted by the protectors of the past, including a trooper who walks along the walls that once was his garrison. One legend names him as an officer who fell in love with a Celtic girl. One fateful day he left his post to meet her, only to let Celtic warriors enter the city and cause chaos. Some have also reported a cavalier in the same area. And John's asking if anyone's ever investigated a Roman site or a site that is from the Bronze Age, or done any investigations along Hayden's Wall. No, not yet. I was thinking about that today.
Well, Drakelow is under an Iron Age fort.
Yes, it is. And a pagan thingy at the top, isn't it?
Well, that's Iron Age for you.
Yes, alright.
Druids.
Okay. Not far from Chester's Northgate Arch stands the George and Dragon pub, an imposing Victorian black and white building seemingly haunted by the spirits of long-dead Roman soldiers. The pub occupies a site straddling the old Roman road, or via Decumana. We're going to go silly now, because he's got big words. Decumana, leading out from Portacumana, the north gate of the fortress. Roman military law forbade the burial of legionnaires within the fortress, and so memorials to the dead lined the road immediately outside. Interestingly, many of the carved and sculptured memorial stones were reused by the Romans when they fortified the north wall of the fortress, and can now be seen as on display at Chester's Superb Grosvenor Museum. Over the centuries, both landlord and regulars of the pub have heard the drums of marching feet beneath the floors, following the route of the old Roman road. Strangely, the sound seems loudest in the cellar, so closer to the original Roman ground level, which once stood several feet below the modern surface. So I don't know if anyone's ever been to the George and the Dragon pub. Neil said it's active but not Romans. Okay. At the top of Northgate Street, You can see a narrow stone footbridge which rises above the canal ravine, known as the Bridge of Sighs. The bridge was built in 1793 by Joseph Turner. It linked to the Northgate Jail to the Chapel of St. John, so the prisoners could receive their last rites, and it is named this because it refers to the size of the prisoners as they were led over the bridge to their execution. Using the main road to transport the condemned men provided too much opportunity for escape. The bridge itself had iron railings to prevent suicide attempts, although it has been said that some did succeed by jumping into the water below. A man cycling to an appointment along Northgate Street looked up at the bridge and spotted 2 or 3 people dressed in old-fashioned clothing. They then vanished, leaving the man rather surprised. Both the jail and the chapel have now gone, leaving the bridge behind an inaccessible curiosity with a gruesome history, but their sighs can still be heard today. Where was we? Still be heard today. Right, between St. John's Church and the River Dee in Chester stands the ancient anchorite cell, which overlooks Chester's groves. It's also believed to be the last home of the 1066 Battle of Hastings King, Harold Godwinson, the Saxon king slain by an arrow to the eye during the war with William the Conqueror, depicted in the famous tapestries from the era. Or was it Harold that was killed? Recently, revealed research now claims the picture of the man dying was one of the knights. King Harold is now believed to have escaped to the walled city of Chester, becoming a hermit and residing in the cell with an elite form of monks. Okay. This fact is only known as his wife, Queen Eldgith, something like that. Silly name. Was often seen passing food through a curtained window of the cell, the monk's only way of receiving sustenance. Why would the Queen visit the cell if not for a secret liaison with his supposedly deceased husband? Other historical documents agree with Harold's survival from the battle and his travel towards the northwest and Chester. The unique medieval cell is home to a powerful mischievous spirit that springs to life at Halloween. Heard talking in Old English, the figure traditionally walks around the grounds and made several appearances during the 70s. Now converted into a cosy, centrally heated 2-bedroom house, the cell nonetheless seemed to have a rapid turnover of owners. Local rumours suggest recent occupiers left soon after terrifying experiences one night when a heavy oak door was inexplicably ripped from its hinges in front of their eyes. Reports have also appeared on the internet regarding poltergeist activity at the location. These reports are unconfirmed and probably incorrect. Poltergeist phenomena is very rare, and due to the anchorite cell being residential property and the occupiers not actually discussing any information concerning its alleged paranormal activity with any media or paranormal related group, UPIA, Unknown Phenomena Investigation Association, believe this to be untrue. The case was discussed at the MAPIT conference in Ellesmere Port in September 2000, also included in the Chester Chronicle. And if you've heard of MAPIT before and UPIA, you'll know that Steve Mehrer is the founder of these, and you can also hear him on a Sunday night at around the same time, 8 o'clock I think it is, on the City Talk Radio, so in Liverpool, on the Planet X paranormal show. So you can have a look on there. Okay, what's been written here? Anyone know what the name Linta means? This has come through to me while listening to Sue. No. Medium Shipfield Building College. I think it's a woman's name maybe. Interesting. Right, well, we can't leave Chester without a mention on Stanley Palace. A 16th century Grade II listed half-timbered building located in the heart of Chester, formerly called Derby House. It stands on or near the site previously occupied by Dominican friars, the Black Friars, in medieval times. Most famous for its involvement in the Civil War, used to hide King Charles supporters and later became a prison for those waiting to be executed for treason. It was built by Peter Warburton, a Chester lawyer who advanced to become a sergeant at law and MP for Chester, a county financial manager, a judge and a knight. Derby House then passed as his daughter's Elizabeth's dowry to the Stanleys of Alderley. On the death of her husband, Elizabeth married Sir Richard Grosvenor of Eaton Hall. She died in 1627 at her Blackfriars home, probably Stanley Palace, and was buried with the Grosvenors at Eccleston. Her presence has been reputedly observed on 2 occasions. A visitor to Stanley Palace reported seeing a lady dressed in a manner related to the 17th century and thought it was a volunteer to welcome visitors to the building. The lady then disappeared through a doorway, which on later inspection the visitors found this doorway to be an interior panelled wall. A paranormal group who investigated the building was aware of a lady who, although welcomed them, demanded formal etiquette and respect and was clearly the lady of the house. As renowned as the history of the structure, the hauntings of Stanley Palace have been witnessed by many, including children frequently heard running from room to room, laughing and singing along the way, the ghost of James Stanley, who was executed in the 17th century and has been wandering the halls, often showing himself as a photographic negative. Okay. The figure of a woman who has been playing the piano to her lover, and a dark and dangerous shadow known to be one of the Blackfriars shows himself to those who dare to visit in the dead of night. We've done Stanley Palace, haven't we?
We have, yes. It's a lovely building, but very small and lots of wooden floors.
Yeah, that's the trouble with it.
Yeah, I've got some info for Nigel.
Okay.
Linter is the meaning of Linter is pretty. The Linter origin name is Finnish, and the gender is definitely female.
Wonder where that came from then. So yes, Stanley Palace. We went there. The first time we went there was with our old group, wasn't it? And there was a medium with us. I can't remember his name, but he has passed on now, I must admit, or we found out recently.
I don't think he was a medium.
No, he wasn't a nil medium, was he? He was sensitive.
He was very sensitive.
Yeah, very sensitive. Can I just say, Spirit Road Paranormal Society have just joined us. Hi, Don. Unfortunately, you've come to nearly the end of the show.
Yeah, James was just asking me as well. I said you'd be finishing in about 5 minutes.
Well, roughly, yeah.
Roughly, yeah. And when we was at...
you was going to tell him about the medium.
Oh, yes.
The sensitive.
Yes, you're the rather sensitive fella. We were all sitting around in the... I think it's called the Queen Anne room. The room downstairs. We're all sitting there quietly. Waiting for the medium to say something, and all we heard was snoring.
Yes.
He'd fell asleep. He was snoring.
Yes, he fell asleep.
He fell asleep.
So, I don't know.
Bless him.
But yeah, well, that was the haunted section for this week. For those who've just joined us, unfortunately, you've missed quite a lot. We did have Amy Vickers on tonight talking about the Starchild. We've had Andy on, Andy 707, telling us about what he did with his groups and as a medium at the time. And we've had people asking questions. So we will be having this on as a podcast. But please do join us again next week, and I'll let you know what's happening next week. But before then, you've got something to say, haven't you?
I have. We last weekend we were with Simply Ghost Nights in
Ripon Museum.
In Ripon, yes, the museum. Lovely place. They had Mr. Chris Conway, who's been on the show.
Yes,
yeah, he was there, and he was his new book is out. Learn Mediumship with. Can you see that? Learn mediumship with Mr.
Down
Chris.
a bit. Down.
There we go. Learn mediumship with Mr. Chris Conway.
You can take it a bit further.
It's not a very thick book, but it is interesting. I managed to read it in about an hour tops.
Yeah, but mind you,
I'm
anyway.
a fast reader, so
Yeah.
but and it does say in here, although John didn't get one when he bought it, that there's a CD with it. So I'm assuming, because he talks about meditation and things like that, I think it's to do with meditation.
Yes.
But I'd only be guessing.
Yeah.
But the right up in the back says, former most haunted medium Chris Conway returns with the third of a remarkable series of books. Chris has yet again managed to take a difficult subject and strip it to the essentials. Anyone who has read his previous books will know that Chris does not believe in jargon. Join Chris on a journey as he teaches you his own remarkable form of mediumship. Chris will teach you your techniques that he uses to step by step help you achieve great understanding of the subject and of mediumship. Chris also teaches meditation techniques, protection, grounding, closing down, and much, much more. There you go, Mr. John.
So that's
his latest book.
So that's his latest book. That's Chris Conway. Is the ex Most Haunted, the last episode.
The last one.
Yeah.
If you don't recognise him.
Yeah.
It was the last one on Most Haunted.
So Spirit Road Paranormal Society. I'm assuming you're in the US of A. As I say, you will be able to catch the podcast later on. There are others that you can see as well. Is this a what the hell does that mean? A rebroadcast. No, this is live.
no, this one is definitely live.
This is live.
And as you'll know when you hear it back, because we messed up at the beginning.
Yes.
Because the music wouldn't start.
Yeah, but when we do it, I'll put the generic one on so that
Are you going to cheat?
to do. Yeah.
You're going to cheat.
So yeah, this will be put on a podcast, so you can catch all the podcasts at the KTPF ktpf.co.uk /
where you signed in, you'll see all the listings.
Paranormal show. All the featured ones are at the top on the slider, but there is also a banner there which takes you in on to the other ones as well. We are always looking for guests on the show.
Yes, come and tell us about yourself.
Hint.
Yes,
American paranormal groups are always welcome because we'd like to know how the other half do their investigations.
Yes, I understand. They don't do so many public investigations in America.
No, I was talking to John from Minnesota and he was saying that it was quite weird actually because we were talking prices and I've decided I want to go over there and because being not profit, I can actually get more investigations at the right price over there than I can over here.
Yeah, I heard you say something about $400.
Yeah, $400. I'm like, yeah, give.
I think that works out about $350.
I think it worked out about $250.
$250.
300 quid. Yeah.
Blimey.
Yeah. I'm moving.
I know exactly where I want to go. I want to go to Alcatraz and I want to go to Waverley.
State Penitentiary.
And the State Pen.
Yeah. So
Pennsylvania State Pen.
Yeah. So if anyone's prepared to put us up, we're coming. Mind you, we did get offered over there by USA Shadow Seekers.
Yeah, it's now
Tammy McCourt.
It's now called
Delta
Paranormal
or something.
Yeah, they've joined up with a few other groups.
Yeah. Don't forget, you can also listen to them
tomorrow
night on Paranormal Addiction, which is a blog radio thing.
Yeah, from blog radio. It's 11 o'clock our time.
Yes. So it's mainly an American show.
Yeah, we got Rainbow Elf down in Cornwall.
Yeah, we got Tammy McCourt, which is a friend of ours.
And Tammy's in Ohio.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where the other gentleman's from.
Dave Truth Seekers. So
I'm not sure where he's from.
But yeah, so there are quite a couple of, and then you've got haunted voices with Todd Bates,
and they've got Ben Hansen on.
Yes, they've got Ben Hansen on tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night from Paranormal Files.
Yes, so check that out. Truth. Okay, well, talking about next week.
Coming soon.
Yes, next week, ladies and gentlemen.
John said he might be in the UK by then.
Ben who? Yes, Nigel. Ben Hansen.
Yes, that was the guy that all the women were swooning over while us men were trying to get some proper questions done.
Well, anyway, next week we have a young man coming on the show, Matthew Dell. He has been interested in the paranormal for over 10 years, attending conferences and talks, and is an avid fan of Fortean Times and the Centre for Fortean Zoology. Okay, he has been actively investigating sites of interest for the last 3 years and investigates anything from mystery bird falls, aliens, big cat sightings to strange and unexplained noises, poltergeists and hauntings. At the moment he's looking to start sort out a new book that he wants to write regarding shadow phenomena, and I've been asking people, if for those that are new to us, we have actually been asking people if they can send their stories in to us so we can pass them on to Matthew to maybe put into his book. He also says that he's been researching the paranormal and started to become a lifelong interest. He regularly finds articles of interest in local and national papers and can often be found in the local libraries archives, seeing what strange and bizarre occurrences he can uncover. He has been published in online magazine Phenomena magazine, who actually I recommend the KTPF show, and in the Ghost Club journal. That
is a good magazine, and it's online and free.
Yes, definitely.
So just Google it up and you'll be able to get it.
He said he is currently working on his own wiki site at www.s-f-i-wiki.com, as well as writing his book on his current obsession, which I said was Shadow Men, which he is hoping to be published by John Downes and the CFZ Press. Okay, so
somebody else we know.
He's also scheduled to talk on next year's Weird Weekend in 2013. So why don't you pop on next week and tell him your stories if you know anything. We also have a group coming on called North Ghost Investigations from up north somewhere. Mark Smith and his crew are going to talk to us later on in the show about who they are and what they do and some of the places they've been to. So
that'd be cool.
It would be, yeah. So that's what's happening next week.
Yes, don't forget, guys, we do want groups to come on and advertise themselves, tell us about themselves, where they go, what they do.
And just to let you know, some of the guests that are coming on between now and Christmas, we have Richard Felix coming on at the end of November. We also have David Rowntree coming on.
Who'd be David Rowntree?
David Rowntree is an American.
All the way from the US, are you?
Yes, and he is...
what is
he's
who or what is David Rowntree?
Who or what? Dave is a great guy.
John knows him.
Yes.
Was that the medium you were talking about?
No. The medium that's coming on is Mark Anthony.
Right.
Okay. David Rowntree is a reputed author of all things paranormal. He's a paranormal investigator, a lecturer, researcher. Okay, and he's part of a group called Spirit, SPRIT. And he was actually born in Suffolk, Virginia. Okay, so as I say, he's...
you missed that, didn't you?
What's that?
John just looked at his picture on there and he looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, my God. So, but...
and Andy question marked Mark Anthony.
Mark Anthony, yes.
And when his season
coming. I think that's his name. Is it Mark Anthony? Hold on, I've forgotten his name now.
In the big ticker.
What's his name? Is it Mark Anthony? I'm sure it's Mark Anthony.
I don't know.
Hold on, let me just double check. I'm sure he said his name was Mark Anthony. Is it Mark Anthony, Neil? Are you still there?
Neil or John?
Neil.
Is he a friend of Neil's?
Yes, Mark Anthony. He is a psychic medium. He's not a friend of yours, so I can't really tell, but he's a psychic medium. Okay, so David is a big tech guy. Spirit Road Paranormal Society said it's been investigating for going on about 4 years now, and I would love to share my stories sometime on here. You go for it. We'll sort you out with a date. You can come on. We need some people to come on for the new year, so if you want to email me, and we can work out the adjust the old time zone. We normally start at 8 p.m. on a on a Wednesday night. UK time, but we normally contact our guests roughly about 8:30 UK time. But we can make it a little bit later if you wish, 9 o'clock our time. So we just have to work them things out. So I know John's still at work, I think, when he talks to us, when he's on the chat room. So, but yeah, it's been a good show tonight, don't you think?
Oh, apparently Neil's in one of Andy Collins' books. I know Nigel said he was.
Did you say you were in? No.
That was Nigel.
No, it was Nigel. Nigel said that. So, but yes. So that's what we've got on next week, and we've also got the lady from Rescue Mediums coming on.
Yes. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, Jason's car's coming on next year. We're waiting for a few people to come along.
Yeah, waiting for Derek.
Tony Toppin's coming on again.
Good old Tony, coming back.
And we're also looking at a young lady from, was it Australia or New Zealand?
Australia, you said.
She's into creative balancing, and she does readings on air. So we're thinking about getting her on to tell us what she does.
And then maybe anybody wants a reading.
Come on once a month and do a couple of readings live. So
yeah, we can get somebody to actually ring up for a reading, because I think it'd be a lot easier that way.
But yeah, Tony Toppin is actually scheduled to be live in the hub. On the 19th of December.
That's going to be crazy.
He's staying the night.
That's going to be crazy.
Oh my God.
That really is going to be crazy.
It's going to be one of them nights.
I'm setting up cameras outside.
And I'm also looking to contact... there was a programme on called recently...
Oh dear, says Neil.
There was a programme on recently about conspiracy theories about UFO and Area 51 that was recently on BBC Three. So next week I may have a short conversation with one of the guys that were on it.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for him to come back.
It's on the UK. On the UK, they did the 7/7 with Tony. I don't know what the one before that, after that was, but like I said, they were doing UFOs, and they actually went to Area 51.
Yeah.
And got themselves arrested at gunpoint, face down in the tarmac. Where you going?
So we have got a few irons in the fire, as they say, and we are looking for...
Yes, yeah, that's the one, Nigel, Conspiracy Road Trip.
Road Trip. Tony Toppin was on that, and he wasn't very happy about the way things went.
He wasn't, but from his own... I think that was mainly because that woman was getting up his nose, to be honest.
Yeah.
And she was getting up my nose as well.
Well, just to let you know of the poll at the moment on our Facebook page, the KTPF Community Show.
Yeah, the majority is saying yes.
Show. At the moment, the majority is telling us to take a break over Christmas. Okay?
That sounds good to me.
It does sound good to me.
Especially
Debbie Green said it's my 40th that day. Have a break, you deserve it.
Yeah, especially as we're in Scotland for New Year.
Yes, we are.
That'd be a long trip back and then straight on the radio, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And the other one about the controversy, I've got three that actually say... four that actually say go for it at the moment, and nobody's saying no. So
I am.
Yeah, so...
I am, because I won't be able to hold my tongue.
So basically... I've said no now. For some reason. No, you've said no for me.
Sorry.
So we need you to vote on that as well.
If you agree, say no for me while you're over there.
I don't know. So what's he saying no for?
If you're wondering why this is sounding a bit weird, is I'm actually on Sue's computer and vice versa.
Oh, John's going to actually open on Wednesday so he can get on the show for us. That'd be great. You know, we'd love to have you on the show, John, and maybe Anita if she's available, unless she's at work. It'd be good to find out how she feels about being in America and missing all this and not getting involved, maybe.
And we'll get them pictures to him as soon as we can.
Yes, as I say, we're going to go to Walsall Hall tomorrow, and we'll get some pictures done for you, and we'll send them over to you. So you should have them by either tomorrow night or Friday. So we'll get that sorted out for you. Okay. She just became a Yank.
She became a Yank last month.
Oh well, congratulations, Anita.
I think, but I think she's taken the oath.
The oath. you know.
Yeah,
so
we don't. Well, we don't.
I don't know whether we do that over here.
We do have it, but it's not compulsory at the moment.
So yeah, well, Spirit Road Paranormal Society, whatever your name is, my love. I hope you'll come and join us again and listen to the podcast. Yeah, but she's still a Brit. Now it's going to be my turn.
Yeah. I was a Brit at heart.
Yeah. So yeah, don't forget. I know you've missed a show, but please have a look back at our past podcast.
Well,
we are getting used to it.
Well,
slowly.
Knowing you, tonight's show will be on later today, but give her
a good 24 hours.
A good 48 hours. And tonight's show will be up on there.
Okay.
For you to re-listen to.
The time is fleeting, and
Gordon Bennett,
we've got 10 viewers still left.
It's 11:15.
I know.
We've actually done
over
2 3/4 hours.
And live stream has behaved itself, so that's good.
This is your fault, you know that, because earlier on today you went, but before long we'll be doing a 3-hour show.
Yeah, I know.
We're only 15 minutes off.
I know we are. So, but I don't know. Well, thanks again. Don't forget. John said it's been a great show. Proud of you. Thanks a lot, John. Appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Don't forget, if you want to hear Steve Mera, he's on City Talk on the Planet X show on City Talk
on Sunday. Yeah,
on Sunday, which is somewhere in Liverpool. I can never remember where it is, and we used to go there because we used to be part of Zone Unknown, you see, and that's our predecessor. Yeah. 105.9 FM. And you can actually, it's on from 8 o'clock until 10 p.m. And that's Planet X, and you can hear Steve Mera on that.
Yeah, that's broadcast from the City Talk Tower, which is the first floor is actually 300 feet up.
Yeah,
and it is haunted.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's it.
As I say, we used to be part of Zone Unknown with Roy Basnett, and they've actually taken the spot now. So because Roy left, so the other one is Paranormal Addiction with as I said, Tammy McCourt and the guys.
If you go on, you're on my.
You go to paranormaladdiction.net. Apparently, I think that's it. Let me just double check.
She's bound to have the link on there. Just click on it and
then you can listen to the show. Here you go. What's this one? Oh, this one says
the
srnlive.com. You can get it from there as well. So, but which is Supernatural Radio Network.
Apparently, Neil said that the City Talk Tower used to be a revolving restaurant.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, the Paranormal Addiction show that Sue's talking about tomorrow night, that's mainly based in America, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there is an English presenter.
Yes, and they've got Ben Hansen on.
Yeah, and they've got Ben Hansen on tomorrow night.
She contacted me after I got him on and said, we want him.
No, not tomorrow night.
Oh, you will hear from me, because I won't be listening. It's too late for me, I'm afraid. It's the same with Haunted Radio.
Just not on the radio.
Haunted Voices. So I normally listen to the podcast afterwards. It's the same with Haunted Voices. I think we worked out, me and John worked out, you're looking at about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So
what's that for John's show?
For Haunted thingy.
Which show's that?
Hang on.
There's a lot of shows out there.
Let's get rid of that. Haunted Voices with Todd Bates. That's an American show.
But there's only one Paranormal Talk Radio. This one.
Yes. No music.
Just music at the beginning, music at the end. Talk about what you want as long as it's paranormal.
Yes. Supernatural, cryptozoic, or whatever you call it. Cryptozoic. And strange phenomena.
Every Wednesday night.
Yes.
This is where it's at.
So we're going to go, I'm afraid.
Yes, time to go. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show. And please don't forget, keep the paranormal friendly.
Good night and God bless.
Hit the button.